Lung Yufeng not happy note. Please join our Discord to support us, or tell us how we can improve. Thank you. Crown Prince, there seems to have been a change in the capital. Wu Ju stood outside the room as she bowed her head. Over the past few days, she had received training from Wu Wei in the capital, who had asked her to go to Fengzhou City to serve the prince. In fact, both of them wanted to serve the prince, but had been rejected. After she heard that she could come and serve the prince, Wu Ju felt very happy, for she could now be of use to him, even if it was just as a handmaid. Wu Ju stood there and heard the sound of door opening. She looked up and saw the black imperial robes, one, of the prince emerge. Wu Ju immediately fell into step by his side. She had just arrived at Fengzhou City last night, and as the crown prince was resting at the time, she dared not bother him. However, as she had not seen him for a few days, she felt that the crown prince's appearance had become more beautiful. Wu Ju thought that in the future, when the crown prince was finally crowned as the emperor, she didn't know what kind of lady could be his match. As Wu Ju was lost in thought, she ran into a slightly weakened body in front of her and looked up stunned. Wu Ju then realized that she had hit the crown prince, who turned around and looked at her indignantly. Crown Prince. Wu Ju kneeled down, but not because she was afraid of the crown prince. These days, both Wu Ju and Wu Wei knew that the crown prince was very tolerant, and as long as you did not make any mistakes, he would often be indulgent. However, not only was she in front of the prince, she even speculated on his future marriage. Wu Ju felt that she had overstepped her boundary. Shangwu Xian looked at the kneeling Wu Jun. She did not understand, was she really that scary looking? This girl before her looked like a mouse now, but Shangwu Xian knew that behind her back, she was cold-blooded and wooden-faced. What are you thinking about that's so important that you couldn't even walk properly? Although it sounded cold, if one listened carefully, they could hear the gentleness in the voice. Wu Ju did not know how to answer. Must she told the crown prince that she had been thinking of who could match his heavenly visage? But Wu Ju could not deceive him, so she bitterly frowned and buried her head. Shangwu Xian leaned down slightly, the corner of her mouth curved into a sinister smile, and said with a charming voice, "Well, what's Wu Ju thinking about?" From a distance, this appeared to be a scene where the cold and beautiful man seemed to lean down to kiss the shy woman, who was kneeling on the ground. The scene was extremely pleasing, but in other people's eyes, this scene was really too annoying. It made them want to kill the woman who was kneeling on the ground. Maybe it was because the crown prince's voice was too charming, but the only Wu Ju could do was distractedly say, "This slave is thinking, crown prince in the future." Wu Ju hadn't even finished talking when a slightly angry voice called out, "Crown Prince." Shangwu Xian was very familiar with this voice, because its owner would come to her place every day, before going out to manage a few things. Although not many words were said, it often appeared in her vicinity. Shangwu Xian straightened up, turned around, and saw Lung Yufeng standing in the entrance to the courtyard. His figure was clothed in a black attire that made him look very handsome and sexy. His sword-like eyebrows were a bit wrinkled, his eyes seemed to be full of anger, and his whole body emitted a thick bloody smell. T/N killing intent? Negative emotions? Aha! It's jealousy THD. This was the first time that Shangwu Xian had seen Lung Yufeng's disappointed expression. Upon seeing this kind of Lung Yufeng, Shangwu Xian realized that this man was a general who led the army, not the silly boy who was always shown in front of her. However, Shangwu Xian had to admit that this kind of Lung Yufeng really gave her a strong desire to conquer him. Shangwu Xian nodded at Lung Yufeng and was ready to go to the living room to eat. Unexpectedly, Lung Yufeng, who usually left early, followed behind her. This subject has also not had breakfast yet. Would the crown prince allow this subject to share breakfast with him? Unusually, his voice was unrestrained, and his request was delivered in an overbearing tone of voice. Shangwu Xian said without paying attention. At this time, Lung Yufeng, who was behind Shangwu Xian, looked coldly at Wu Ju. The look in his eyes was like a wolf's, experienced with the horror of tearing people apart, which chilled Wu Ju's whole body. She didn't know when she had offended the general, but she knew that the General Lung seemed to harbor a strong hostility towards her. The two were seated for but a moment before Wu Ju let the servants bring the food to the table. It was no longer like the days past, where no one had waited on Shang Wu Xan. T/N. Waited means that no one waits on the side to serve SWX before. The meals on the table were not even half as good as a meal in the Crown Prince's house, as there were currently no good meals to be found in Fengzhou City. Fortunately, Shang Wu Xan was able to endure suffering. She was not a demanding person, and was able to enjoy the food happily. Perhaps due to the discomfort of Shang Wu Xan's body over the past few days, she did not eat much. She tasted a few mouthfuls before putting down her chopsticks. Does the food did not suit your taste? Lung Yufeng, who was still sulking, saw the Crown Prince put down his chopsticks. He thought that because the Crown Prince's body was thin, so he could not eat much. Lung Yufeng felt a bit worried, and he ignored his previous negative thoughts to ask. Shang Wu Xan took the clear water that Wu Ju handed over, and shook her head slightly. This prince is just not hungry. General Lung can continue eating. This prince will go first. After she was done speaking, she got up, and fearlessly left the living room. As Lung Yufeng looked at the back of the departing Crown Prince, the delicious meal suddenly became tasteless, and he too put down his chopsticks, and left the living room. Shang Wu Xan stood atop the watchtower of Fengzhou City, and watched as the entire city recovered its former glory. Wu Ju said with some pride, "Prince, you are too great. You don't know, but right now everyone in Fengzhou City anyone says that the Crown Prince is like the Bodhisattva." Shang Wu Xan knew that what Wu Ju said was all true. Recently, when she appeared in Fengzhou City, she encountered so many people who were very grateful to her, and wanted to talk to her, that she could not appear in front of them at all. Oh, why did this prince not know that this prince is so powerful? Shang Wu Xan smiled and teased, but the smile didn't really look like a smile, just a slight pull at the corner of the mouth. Of course, Wu Ju said with some pride. Her usual cold look nowhere to be seen. Crown Prince, you did not know. Nowadays, not only does Fengzhou City know your name, but the whole mainland knows that the Crown Prince loves his people like his children. Although Wu Ju looked very cold, and was really a cold person, before the Crown Prince, she was always no different from a little girl. Shang Wu Xan knew that Wu Ju had no other intentions in saying that. Since ancient times, people's hearts had always been the most important thing. Although the lower class couldn't help the upper class, it was an important factor. If they wanted to claim the official positions, then they had to follow the public opinion. Where did you learn to be so talkative? Shang Wu Xan shook her head and sighed. The longer the little girl stayed by her side, the more cheerful she was. Shang Wu Xan didn't know whether it was a good or a bad thing. Wu Ju did not lie. Crown Prince's name is really deserved. A pleasing voice came from the tower's left side. Shang Wu Xan did not even have to look back to know Huan Emoche had come. Other than him, who else had a voice that was warm as the wind, while the person himself was cool like water? Shang Wu Xan looked at the blue-dressed Huan Emoche. His posture was tall and straight, beautiful and extraordinary. His 5 features were profound and clear, with a wing-shaped eyebrow, and peach eyes that were as elegant as an ink painting. Those black pupils felt as if they could suck people in after staring into them for a long time. Huan Emoche had become accustomed towards this silent Crown Prince. It seemed like the Crown Prince had no feelings, or even the slightest emotions, for anyone but was a little bit hostile towards him. No matter how he followed the Crown Prince, he was never paid any attention. For the past few days, the more he involved himself with the Crown Prince, the more he couldn't extricate himself. He could clearly feel his heart move towards the Crown Prince. Whether or not he was ignorant at the beginning, now he knew very well that he liked the Crown Prince. He did not know how much he liked this Crown Prince, but he knew that he could not let him go. He had never liked anybody, man or woman. This was the first time he liked a person, but the response was a cold estrangement. Huan Emoche felt that he had a strong mentality. Otherwise, how could he have laughed so easily every time he was ignored by the Crown Prince, yet still followed him? Regarding Huan Emoche's unpredictable look, Shang Wu Xan did not want to know. At the beginning, she thought that this person had self-interest at heart when he approached her. But after these past few days of getting along with him, Although she knew that he was not a good person, she understood that he did not have any ill intent towards her. So she just let him be. However, she really did not like this person. Everything he said was a joke, and that pair of peach eyes, 3, were so beautiful that it could make people fall in love with them. Shang Wuxian nodded towards Huan Emoche and led Wu Ju down from the tower, leaving the blue-dressed figure there alone. A cold wind blew, and a figure could be seen standing there in obvious loneliness. XXX. 1. Google searched this words to see how the imperial robes looked like. 2. In this context, Shang Wuxian wondered how did Wu Ju learned how to be so talkative/poor mouth. But Google translated it to, how do you learn to be poor now? Ha ha ha. 3. Peach eyes are said to be very seductive and inviting towards the opposite sex. Google the Chinese words to see how it looks like. Pick up a gifted carriage. 1. The entire Fengzhou city's people were kneeling at the city gate as they watched the crown prince's carriage slowly disappeared from their sights. Even though the man that they respected as a god did not come out to say a word, it did not stop them from paying respect to the crown prince. Shang Wuxian sat in the horse carriage. This horse carriage was made from the best wood. The soft couch in the carriage was covered with high-quality white bear's fur. There were several teacups in the carriage. These teacups were the rare luminous cups. This horse carriage was not prepared by Shang Wuxian. When they were getting ready to depart Fengzhou City, someone sent a luxurious two-horse carriage at the entrance of the gate. Shang Wuxian, at first, did not know who sent the carriage, but it was very clear now that the person who could have sent this was the divine doctor. She couldn't think of anyone else who could have prepared such a beautiful carriage this fast except for him. Shang Wuxian really admired how much money the man had. The most important thing was that there was a faint scent of medicine inside the carriage. There were even men's clothes hidden in the carriage's compartment. No matter how stupid Shang Wuxian was, she would have realized it with just these few points. Yufeng, do you know where the crown prince's carriage came from? Huan Emoche, while riding on his horse, asked Lung Yufeng, who rode on the carriage's left side. Although they had seen many good things in the world, they had to admire and admit that this carriage was something that not all people could get. More importantly, Huan Emoche speculated that this carriage was not something that could be prepared in a short time. It would take a craftsman at least half a year to build this carriage. So this carriage was definitely not the crown prince's carriage. When Lung Yufeng heard his good friend's question, he remembered what he saw in the morning. As he was packing his belongings, Lung Yufeng thought about preparing the crown prince's horse carriage. Even though the crown prince seemed masculine enough to do so, when he thought of crown prince's pale face, Lung Yufeng couldn't stop himself from pampering him. SWX. However, when he walked out of the residence's gate, he saw a two-horse carriage parked not far from the gate, and the owner of that carriage surprised Lung Yufeng. It was the divine Dr. Yi Yizhe. He heard Yi Yizhe, who wore a white robe while carrying a snow fox, fearlessly say, "Sorry for troubling you. This horse carriage is a gift for the crown prince. When I have time, I will go to the capital to visit crown prince." After he finished, he left the horse carriage and walked away. That was why Lung Yufeng knew that this horse carriage was the divine Dr. Yi Yizhe's carriage. He who never let other people enter his horse carriage, now easily gave it away to the crown prince. This act made Lung Yufeng a little cautious, but he didn't refuse the carriage. Looking at his good friend's distracted and dark face, Huan Emoche decided to punch his good friend. As he got close to his friend, and he dodged the attack flawlessly. Jokes aside, how could Lung Yufeng, who was in countless battles, be less vigilant? Vigilance was ingrained in his bones. This carriage was gifted by the divine Dr. Yi Yizhe. Lung Yufeng said with a cold face. Yi Yizhe. Huan Emoche was a bit surprised. As they were all considered one of the top men in the world, it's inevitable that they knew each other. Huan Emoche knew that Yi Yizhe was not only a divine doctor, but was also a wealthy businessman. More importantly, this Yi Yizhe was a prideful person and was obsessed with cleanliness. However, this kind of man gave his own luxurious horse carriage to the crown prince. Huan Emoche felt that this Yi Yizhe person did not have a good intention. This Yi Yizhe has been wandering around the country, and there has never been any news of the people that he has met. This time, he sent such valuable carriage to the crown prince. This guy is just like a weasel for. Huan Emoche angrily said. But he suddenly realized that this analogy was wrong, and stopped his words. Shangwu Xian was lying inside the carriage, without fearing the carriage would crash even with no coach driving outside. Shangwu Xian really had to agree that Yi Yizhe is a person who really knew how to enjoy life. This carriage was many times more comfortable than other ordinary carriages. She felt a little drowsy. Young Master Huan, what's wrong with you? He Lanjin's voice came from outside of the carriage. Shangwu Xian felt a little unhappy after being disturbed in her sleep, but she still listened to what happened outside. Huan Emoche felt a bit uncomfortable, and almost fell down from the horse. Ilan Jin was originally following behind his general, and was surprised when he saw the situation. He was ready to step up and lift young Master Huan, but was stopped as young Master Huan subtly asked him to hide it. Lung Yufeng's mouth was twitching a bit, but he had to admire his good friend's small tricks. Only his good friend was not afraid of pulling these type of things from below. 5. Lung Yufeng lifted Huan Emoche and said to the carriage, Crown Prince, Emoche's body seems to be somewhat uncomfortable. Can you let Emoche enter the carriage to rest for a bit? Lung Yufeng felt flustered when he said this as he held Huan Emoche. His palms were stiff, and he was afraid that he would throw his friend a few miles away. But when he remembered that he would be left alone here, there would be no difference at all. 6. Shangwu Xian raised her eyelids slightly before closing them to cover her bottomless eyes. A cold voice came from the carriage. Come in. After he heard that, Lung Yufeng helped Huan Emoche into the carriage. When they entered the carriage, they saw the crown prince lying there. Although the carriage was extremely luxurious, the young man inside of it made it look brighter than usual. The slightly raised up corner of the young man's enchanting closed eyes, a flawless white face, a clear lip lined and tilted up in a slight smile. He was extremely handsome. The heart of Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche suddenly beat violently. They spent a lot of self-control not to make any violations in their conduct, or else they would very likely hold the young man lying there in their arms. Just when both of them were at a loss, the young man lying there suddenly opened his eyes, and in an instant cold air permeates the entire carriage. Lung Yufeng looked at the crown prince's expression and immediately explained, I am afraid Emoche will bother the crown prince, so I. Lung Yufeng found that he suddenly could not say any lie in front of the crown prince's cold eyes. He tilted his head down until his chin touched his neck, clenched his fist and said apologies. Apologies, we just wanted to enter the carriage to accompany crown prince, so we lied. Huan Emoche elucidated his good friend's words. They couldn't come up with any lies in front of the crown prince. They thought about getting into the horse carriage first before continue talking, but when they saw the look of the crown prince, they couldn't say anything about the lies. Although it was just a small trick, they didn't dare to look at her eyes. Shangwu Xian's eyes looked at the two casually, and found the smile on Huan Emoche's mouth was very stiff and looked very ugly, while Lung Yufeng's weak-colored 7. face was faintly turning white. Shangwu Xian got up from her lying position to sit down and said, Sit. The two sat opposite from the crown prince. Just after they sat down, they heard the unique voice of the crown prince. Although you are not this prince's friends or subordinates, this prince's eyes were not made of sand. 8. This prince does not work well even if it's a white lie. 9. If both of you do not like this prince's temperament, then from today onwards just leave. Shangwu Xian did not mean to say this to both of them, but she had to admit in this period of time both of them had worked hard for herself. If not for this two people dealing with Fengzhou City, then others won't be able to do it. This piece of goodwill, she had felt and received it, so the things that need to be said must be said. XXX author's note. Off topic, our dear ZYYZ has delivered the carriage. Pickup is a must. XXX T/N note. Originally it's Google translates to pick up the must-have car. I'm literally lost in translating this chapter's title, as my comprehension in sending a carriage for pickup in ancient area was used to pick up the bride in a wedding. For all, too. Literally translated as no waves and no water. which refers to a person who lack of ambition and desire. Underscore, straight face angle, underscore 3. Really? Yi Ija, you so scary. Sigma, degree. Imagines a person hugging your thighs/waist tightly without letting go even when they're dead. Zamba Bii. OAO4. To be referred as a weasel dash simply meant that that person is very sneaky or sly. 5. Pulling things from below dash, playing little/sneaky tricks. 6. The point is, there would be no difference if he flings HMC away, as he would still felt flustered because he helped HMC to stage the lies and lied to SWX. 7. Wheat-colored skin tone dash, search it in Google, or any search browser you have on hand. It's a lighter color of brown skin tone. It's a darker color than tan, I think. 8. Eyes not made of sand. One of the Baidu users explained that this means that SWX is not someone who is easy to be deceived. 9. My comprehension. Basically, Shangwu Xian said that she won't accept any types of lie. Even if a white lie is sometimes good for a person, as a white lie, no matter how kind, is malicious/bad towards the one who heard it, or the one who's mentioned, or even to the one who said/created it first. Awkward situation in the carriage. I know, Huang Emoche and Lung Yufeng said while lowering their head. They knew from the way the crown prince said that the prince was not talking about playing, and they have never thought of deceiving the crown prince. And now, everything was lost. Shangwu Xian looked at the two people opposite of him. They looked just like a child who had done a wrong thing, sitting down while lowering their heads, and she was like the strict parent scolding them. The more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she was in her heart. So she simply ignored them and closed her eyes. While Shangwu Xian closed her eyes, the two people opposite her raised their heads at the same time and looked at the crown prince who had closed his eyes. The crown prince with his eyes closed gave a feeling of being thin and very weak. These two people were greedily looking at the person opposite them, as if he was the most beautiful thing they've ever seen at this moment. At this moment, both of them made up their minds, from today onwards, they would not lie to the prince in any way, because they were very clear that if there was a lie between them and the prince, afraid that in the future, they will not even be able to become friends. Even though Shangwu Xian closed her eyes, she was still aware of her surroundings. How could she not felt the way the two people in front of her were staring at her so intently? Shangwu Xian opened her eyes and was about to scold the two. But at this time the carriage suddenly bumped on a stone, and the entire carriage tilted. Shangwu Xian could not respond quickly to stabilize herself. Her whole body was uncontrollable and fell towards the two people opposite her. When the horse carriage bumped the stone, Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche extended their hands and caught the fallen crown prince into their arms. As the two were men, so the way they sat were very stable. But both of them had reached out at the same time to save the crown prince. So when Lung Yufeng reached out to save the crown prince, he caught the crown prince around his waist while Huan Emoche caught him around his shoulders. Shangwu Xian's whole body was hugged by two people, so she was not harmed. But both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche's back hit the carriage's wall when they're saving the prince. Although it must be very painful. But both of them still looked the same, as if it did not hurt at all. Lung Yufeng was a little embarrassed while he was holding the crown prince's waist. His cheeks were slightly red, although he had fought in the battlefield, but he had never been this close to other people except the enemy. Moreover, he could feel that the waist in his arms was very thin and boneless, which made him suspect that the crown prince was too thin, and he's afraid that if he put a little force he could break it. When Huan Emoche caught the crown prince's shoulder, Shangwu Xian's head hit Huan Emoche's chest, and a rich and fragrant smell of green bamboo filled Shangwu Xian's senses. Even though Huan Emoche looked just like a slender young master, his chest was also hard that Shangwu Xian's forehead felt pain when she hit it. The shoulders beneath his arms were too thin that he could feel the bones. Huan Emoche's brow wrinkled, but then he felt the crown prince's forehead had just hit his chest, and at the same time a faint fragrance came from the crown prince. He could not feel the pain in his chest, and could only feel that his heart seemed to be filled with waves, like a rock that was thrown into the calm water. Crown Prince. Wu Ju's voice came from outside the carriage. When she was driving the carriage, she didn't find any stone on the road, but she heard some movements from the carriage and was worried if she had disturbed the crown prince. She was afraid to be disliked because of disturbing the crown prince. Shang Wuxian pushed herself off of Huan Emoche and said to the one outside, "Nothing." Her voice did not change at all, as if the situation just now did not happen. After waiting for Wu Ju to finish, Shang Wuxian looked at Leng Yufeng. Leng Yufeng's face became more and more red as he was looked. He didn't know why the crown prince was looking at him so intently. Was it because just now he had just held the crown prince's waist, and it made him unhappy? "General Leng, when will you release your arms?" Shang Wuxian looked curiously at Leng Yufeng's red face. Or how long would General Leng still like to hold? Leng Yufeng quickly took back his hand, as if his whole body was being electrified. He just thought that the crown prince's waist fits really well in his arm, and he could not help but felt that this feeling was very comfortable, that he forgot that doing so was against the rules. Leng Yufeng took back his hand and clenched his fist. He could even smell the crown prince's fragrance from his own hands. It's not any floral fragrance, but it was a very natural and fresh fragrance. Leng Yufeng once thought that the crown prince had used some kind of fragrance, but later on he knew that it was the crown prince's own body fragrance. If the former Leng Yufeng knew that a man's body had a woman's fragrance, didn't know how much it would repel him. But now as this happened to the crown prince, Leng Yufeng did not think that the crown prince's girly fragrance was bad, but thought that it was really nice. This kind of fragrance could only be found on the crown prince's body. It seemed as if the fragrance was born for the crown prince. If it wasn't for the crown prince opposite of him, Leng Yufeng would really want to smell the smell in his hand. However, as this thought came, it just made Leng Yufeng's face a bit wrong. How could he had this kind of thought? Leng Yufeng sneaked a peek at the crown prince to see that the crown prince did not even look at him. He was relieved and became more alarmed at himself. What happened to him recently? As the stiff-faced Leng Yufeng absent-mindedly imagined things in his mind, Huan Emoche too was no better. Huan Emoche looked across at the crown prince who was looking out of the carriage. He reached out to rub at his own chest. It felt as if he could still felt the crown prince's body temperature. Obviously the crown prince's body was very cold, but it was as if it burned his heart. It was at this moment a black pigeon landed on Wu Ju's arm. Wu Ju immediately took out the news from the pigeon to look, then whispered towards the one inside the carriage. "Crown Prince, it's news from the capital." Wu Ju was whispering in this way because she knew there were two other people inside the carriage. Although the two men did not seem to have malicious intent towards the crown prince for now, but the heart of defense is indispensable. 4. And just say. Shang Wuxian's gaze still looked through the carriage's window towards the lush landscape. It seemed as if she was defenseless for the two in the carriage, but Leng Yufeng and Huan Emoche knew that this was not because the crown prince did not believe them, but because he did not care at all. After Wu Ju heard the crown prince's voice, she quickly answered. General Hai said that he had received news that Crown Prince are returning to the capital, so Crown Prince should be more careful. General Hai also asked if Crown Prince would like him to send someone to pick up Crown Prince and return to the capital. No need, Shang Wuxian casually said. Go slower, no need to hurry back to the capital. XXX1. Lost the wife and folded soldiers? Anyway, it's an idiom of when you regret doing something to someone and lost their trust. My interpretation too. Caught in this sentence. You know when you're trying to save someone reflexively when they fell towards you? You basically caught them as they fall but inadvertently hugged/held them in your arms. Hee, smirking smugly. 3. Boneless can also mean slim. 4. Idiom. English equivalent is better safe than sorry. Two honest brothers tonight. They stayed at the mountain. Although the things at Fengzhou City was solved, Shang Wuxian was not in a hurry to return to the capital. However, if a group of people walked through the normal road, the things that they encountered would be innumerable. So Shang Wuxian took the group and chose the most remote path. Although the speed of the journey was very slow, and they could still sightseeing along the journey, when Shang Wuxian got off from the carriage, she heard everyone's voice saluting at her. They're full of respect and admiration. Shang Wuxian nodded, and asked everyone to disperse and to forego the ceremonies. If she had at first went out of the capital by using a carriage, didn't know how these people would arrange themselves at the back. So Shangwu Xian did not even think about the idea of riding in a carriage before. Now, after being with these soldiers for nearly a month, she had conquered these soldiers with her own means. So even if she was sitting all day in the carriage, no one complained, because in the eyes of everyone here, it was considered reasonable. If she rode the horse now, the soldiers would feel that they were not serving the crown prince well. This was what the conquest of humanity meant. 1. Wu Ju stepped forward to take out her handkerchief before putting it on the ground. Shangwu Xian then sat down on top of it. She could endure any suffering without any good conditions, but she would never give herself any grief if she could enjoy it. In this moment, Shangwu Xian's doctrine was right in the soldier's eyes. Look, Crown Prince was very elegant. It was really the royal prince of the East Palace. When the time was hard, he suffered together with them. But now he could still be this elegant. If Shangwu Xian knew what these soldiers thought, she would not know what to say. Shangwu Xian sat there, didn't know what she was thinking of, while Wu Ju went to the carriage to get some pancakes that had been prepared before. But at this moment she saw Leng Yufeng and Huan Emoche came out of the forest. In Huan Emoche's hands, he held some cyan-colored fruit, while Leng Yufeng held a rabbit that had been shot. Leng Yufeng walked in front towards the crown prince, while taking away the pancakes from Wu Ju's hand. His voice sounded warm in this cold night. I have caught a rabbit. After I roast it, I'll give it to Crown Prince to taste. Yesterday, he saw that the Crown Prince just ate a small amount for his breakfast, and thought that maybe the food was not in line to the Crown Prince's taste. If he let the Crown Prince eat these cold and chilled pancakes, the Crown Prince would eat even less than before. Therefore, Leng Yufeng thought that roasted meat might increase the Crown Prince's appetite, so he went to the forest to caught some prey to be roasted. Moreover, Leng Yufeng thought that as the Crown Prince were in the capital for so many years, he might have never tasted these wild game meats before, so he went to hunt as the others rested. Shangwu Xian looked as she saw Leng Yufeng took the pancakes and gave them to his subordinates. She did not say any refusal. He then watched as Huan Emoche and Leng Yufeng went to look for a water source. Shangwu Xian just sat there as she watched the stars above. No one went to disturb her. Even the soldiers had toned down their voices, because at this moment, the Crown Prince's quiet look made them couldn't bear to bother him. At this moment, not far from the lake, Huan Emoche carefully washed the fruit in his hand with the lake's water, and then watched his friend clean the caught rabbit's internal organs and peeled off its fur. Leng Yufeng was very skilled, but it would still take quite a while to clean up the animal. Huan Emoche took out his handkerchief to dry the washed fruit, and looked at his friend, who was about to leave, with a voice full of provocations. You like the Crown Prince? Bare affirmation, but it also contained an unknown anger. Leng Yufeng's right hand that was cleaning the animal suddenly fell to the ground. He never thought about this problem, and was blown away by his good friend's open question. He'd always thought that he thought of the Crown Prince just like his little brother. Later on, he admired the Crown Prince's temperament as the true Crown Prince. But was this really the truth? In the past he could continue to deceive himself, that he just wanted to be the Crown Prince's confidant. But now, Leng Yufeng knew that he could not lie to his friend, and he could not lie to himself too. If he really wanted to be the Crown Prince's confidant, why had the Crown Prince's shadow appeared in his dreams? Why did his own eyes involuntarily pay attention to the Crown Prince? Even now, why did he still worry whether the Crown Prince would have poor appetite, and therefore went to hunt for him? What he did was not only beyond what a monarch and a minister relationship was supposed to be, it had even exceeded the boundaries between friends. But Leng Yufeng's heart spreads with endless sorrow. He's a man, ah. Crown Prince is a man too, ah. Leng Yufeng just stood there without any reply, but Huan Emoche did not let him go. He came in front of Leng Yufeng. His pear peach blossom-shaped eyes were on Leng Yufeng's own pear. Yufeng, you have fallen for the Crown Prince. No, no. Leng Yufeng looked at his friend's serious face that was without a smile. In front of Huan Emoche's eyes that was full of suspicion he bitterly said, I have fallen in love with the crown prince. Huan Emoche felt as if his whole body was struck by lightning. Why? Why must it be like this? His right hand was clenched so tightly that blood dripped down from it. Huan Emoche repressed his anger that wanted to kill his good friend. He knew that he was not qualified to be angry, because the crown prince actually treated Yufeng better than himself. What about you? Lung Yufeng had let out the secrets hidden for a long time in his heart. Although it's not easy, it became heavier than before. He had seen the blood dripping out from his friend's hand. For many years they've never had any disputes between themselves. But now they were full of bitterness just because of a man. Me? Huan Emoche suddenly pulled Lung Yufeng's collar. You love him? What right do you have to love him? You are both men. Huan Emoche, who had never been angered this badly before, was for the first time furious. 5. And it was not the normal kind of anger. His usual smiling face was slightly distorted. His peach blossom eyes were full of cold, murderous intent. Lung Yufeng suddenly punched Huan Emoche. Although he did not use any internal force in it, it still knocked down Huan Emoche. Man? Are you not a man? What qualifications do you have to ask me? Huan Emoche reached out to wipe off the blood from his mouth, and instantly recovered his smile. He did not know whether these words were for Lung Yufeng or himself. Yes, what qualifications do I have to ask you? It's not only you who love him, I love him too. Lung Yufeng looked at his friend. He suddenly did not know whether to be angry or sad. They were originally an indifferent person, who never thought about love matters. However, their heart moved for the first time for the same person. But this person's a man, which made them feel ashamed. If the crown prince knew, how will he treat them in the future? After a moment, Huan Emoche firmly looked at Lung Yufeng. Yufeng, we are friends who have been together for many years. I've never thought that one day we will fight against each other, because of a man. I admit, I've thought about killing you. But what will happen after I killed you? Will the crown prince accept me after I killed you? I have no chance, you also don't. Because we are all men. Lung Yufeng did not speak. How could he not know? If crown prince was a woman, they could still fight hard for him. But now they did not even dare to let the crown prince knew what they were thinking of in their minds. This disgraceful love. How could they let the snow-cold crown prince knew? But, Huan Emoche said with a soft smile, I will not give up. Are you crazy? Lung Yufeng asked incredulously. Huan Emoche covered the wound in his hand, then looked at his friend and asked, Can you really bear to let go? I don't mean anything else. But just think that this love. I will not give up. I will always protect the crown prince. Lung Yufeng knew that although his good friend looked very gentle, but he was in fact more stubborn than anyone else. What he had said now was what he planned to do. I will also protect the crown prince. As I can't let go, then I hope that the crown prince will be happy. Lung Yufeng picked the dirted rabbit on the ground to clean it again. Even if it's not willing, even if it hurts. If he couldn't get it, then he could only choose to guard it. Huan Emoche opened his mouth slightly, but could not say anything. Can't get it, can't let go, can't love it, can't erase it. Meeting the crown prince had robbed the two of their brotherhood, and it's hard for them to escape from it. After waiting for a long time, Wuxia finally saw Lung Yufeng, and Huan Emoche came back. Although the two did not seem to be different, Wuxia still saw the faint bruise on Huan Emoche's mouth, and felt the remnant of Lung Yufeng's murderous intent. However, Wuxia still took on an unconcerned attitude. The meat will take a while. Eat some fruits first, to quench your thirst and pad your stomach. Huan Emoche came to the crown prince's side and sat down. Then he took out the green fruit wrapped in a handkerchief from his sleeve. Last time Huan Emoche picked fruits for the crown prince, he found that the crown prince liked to eat fruits that were a bit sour. So this time he picked fruits that were not mature yet. Although he did not understand how could crown prince like this sour thing. But it's not important. The important thing was that what the crown prince liked he would like. Wuxia looked at the man who happily sat beside her, and was confused with what she saw. Although she did not understand, she still took the fruit, and put it in her mouth. Sour taste filled her taste bud, and Wuxia's brows relaxed. People rarely liked this kind of sour thing, but she liked it very much. It was because when she ate such sour fruit when she was in pain, Only in this way could she transfer the pain in her heart. Huan Emoche looked at the crown prince's face who sat beside him. The prince's little face was as wide as a palm, his skin white, paler than the snow and delicate. It was like a piece of a good fat and pure jade. Full rosy lips, straight and round nose, black eyebrows. All 5 features were as if it was carved by the god. The most eye-catching part was the clear watery eyes like the black pearl that glimmers through the light, clean and pure but yet deep and ghastly. Huan Emoche knew that the first time he saw that pair of eyes, he had already sunk too deep and couldn't help himself out of it. General Lung's handmade food 1. The meat is ready, Crown Prince, please have a taste. Looking at Huan Emoche's struck dumb expression, Lung Yufeng went to the other side of the prince to sit down. He then took the cooked wild game. Using a dagger he cut it into small pieces, before handing it over to the crown prince. Huan Emoche looked at his friend with a concealed anger. They just had a good time. But now it seemed that his wooden-faced friend had started to compete for the position. Huan Emoche felt that the first thing he needed to guard against in the future was this good friend. Shangwu Exan took the meat that had been cut into small pieces and wrapped in a handkerchief. When she saw this man for the first time, she thought that this man was a big clumsy man too. But after thinking for so long, Shangwu Exan just knew that this man always had unprecedented care towards others. After eating the meat, even Shangwu Exan had to admire Lung Yufeng's skill. It was really good. The meat not only retained its original flavor, but you could also taste the soft, juicy part of the meat. It let Shangwu Exan, who originally did not have any appetite, to eat a few more pieces. Lung Yufeng stared and watched as the crown prince tasted a piece. His eyes lifted slightly before he continued to eat a few more pieces. He knew in his heart that the crown prince really liked to eat his handmade wild game cooking. He didn't really learn how to cook wild game at first. However, because he fought all year round in the battlefield, thus he practiced how to cook the wild game meat frequently. Every time he grilled the game meat, the soldiers around him drooled. He didn't think much of the skill before, but now he thought that it's a good thing to have this skill. Huan Emoche looked with jealously. The crown prince also liked the fruit that he picked, but as he looked at the crown prince who finally ate more, he had to admit in his heart that he needed to thank his friend for it. It's at this moment, Wu Ju, who just left not too long ago, walked back to the crown prince's side in a hurry. Crown Prince, something's not right. Just now, the crown prince had asked her to go around and investigate, but when doing so, she saw something important. Shangwu Exan put the meat wrapped in a handkerchief in her hand onto Lung Yufeng's hand. She quickly stood up and asked, "Talk." Both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche, who sat around him, immediately stood up too. Even the soldiers who sat relatively close around them felt the crown prince's suffocating aura. This servant have found some people at the bottom of the mountain. There are not just a few, but more importantly the numbers are still increasing. Wu Ju said while gripping the weapon in her hand. Wu Ju was very clear as to why these people came, but she did not expect them to have so many people. Although they had a lot of people, but they're still a little less compared to the enemy. The most important thing was that they still had not made any preparation yet. Shangwu Exan looked at Lung Yufeng. Let all the soldiers prepare and give this prince a fight. Not even a while has passed before all the soldiers stood up. Shangwu Exan was very satisfied with these soldiers' quality and martial arts. And now Shangwu Exan also understood why these soldiers were involved in the food delivery. Although she knew clearly in her heart, she did not need to say it out loud. There are 2 roads coming from the bottom of the mountain. If these people want to attack the mountain, we only have these 2 roads. So now we need to block one of these roads and kill them from the other road. Lung Yufeng calmly analyzed. Even if there were tens of thousands of people, he would not back down. This was his strength as a general. But that was before, when he had nothing to fear. Now he needed to protect one person from harm. So he won't fight like how he used to. Yufeng, you protect the crown prince. I will take some people to stop them. Huan Emoche stood there with a rare serious look. The people that resisted the enemy in the back was the most dangerous one. The people in front could rush out and escape, but the people who were blocking in the back would die. Huan Emoche himself did not know when he was so brave. However, he only knew that he could not let the crown prince met an accident, even if it's just a little bit of injury. Shang Wuxian looked at the arrangement of the two people in front of her with dissatisfaction. She was the crown prince here, but these two people had regarded her as heir. But how can the Shang Wuxian at this time knew that these two people were so nervous that they ignored her, because they put her in their heart? How long does it take for Wu Wei to arrive? Just when everyone was still nervous, Shang Wuxian suddenly asked with a smile. Wu Ju thought of the crown prince's letter to Wu Wei. At first, she did not understand why the prince wanted to call Wu Wei, but now she suddenly understood. Wu Ju thought that the crown prince was really a godly figure. 3. Not only did he long known that someone would intercept them on their way back to the capital, even the timing did not deviate much from what he had calculated. He will arrive today in the evening, Wu Ju said. Her heart was finally relieved. If the crown prince was hurt while she was serving on his side, she would have no face when she returned to the capital. Shang Wuxian nodded, and then said to the crowd, "Since you are all the subordinate of this prince, then use this as a chance to show your skills to this prince. This prince is not a garbage dump, and have no need of garbage. Tonight, this battle will let this prince see if you can become the sharp knife in this prince's hand. Will live up to crown prince's expectations." Thousands of soldiers swore at the same time. Shang Wuxian was very satisfied with the collection of the new subordinates. And this was a gift that someone gave to herself. Wu Ju, let this prince see how much you've progressed after your training recently, Shang Wuxian said to the nervous Wu Ju beside her. But towards the two big animals beside her, Shang Wuxian did not say anything, as the martial arts of these two people need not to be said at all. Lung Yufeng ordered He Lanjin to take people to move a big rock to block the road in the east side. A group of people went down from the road from the south. He Lanjin, who came back at this time, incomprehensibly asked, "Crown Prince, why didn't you wait for them to come up and attack? You want them to surround us? If we let them surround the hill, where will we go? If they set fire to the mountain, how can we get out?" Lung Yufeng really wanted to kill his own subordinate, asking an idiot question to the crown prince. The crown prince would misunderstand him as an idiot too. "They've come." Shang Wuxian's white fingers stroked the jade on her waist, her mouth hooked up in a smile. Her whole person seemed to change from a cold noble sun to a devilish demon. At the other end of the mountain road, there were rows of black-clothed people waiting, and there were more than one faction. Shang Wuxian raised an eyebrow, and understood that this time her good royal brothers had worked together to make sure she slept in this hill forever. After they saw the enemy, thousands of soldiers immediately moved to surround the crown prince. The meaning of protection was self-evident. Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche also moved to guard in front of Shang Wuxian. Most of the black-clothed people were puzzled. They did not think that this strawbag crown prince had this many guards and followers. Young Master Huan, General Lung, the head of the black-clothed men, said while giving a fisted hand salute and said, "This one only needs the crown prince's head. If young Master Huan and General Lung leave first, this one will not make it more difficult." The black-clothed person knew of the skills of both young Master Huan and General Lung. If these two people guarded the crown prince today, it would not be easy to eradicate the crown prince. Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche's face instantly changed. This person was simply ignorant. They wanted to kill the crown prince. How could they tolerate it? When the black-clothed man had just finished his speech, a blade with a sharp edge fanned out and attacked him. This move refracted a cold light. The black-clothed man wanted to dodge, but was hit directly in the chest by the folding fan. In an instant, a bloody hole was left behind. It started with Huan Emoche, and the killing in the mountain began instantly. Lung Yufeng took out the long sword that he carried with him. This soft sword were usually worn by Lung Yufeng around the waist just like a belt. But now, you could clearly felt the cold aura of the sword. Even if Shang Wuxian was not close to Lung Yufeng, she could still feel the sword's coldness. Although the black-clothed people who came here were not weak, but these thousands of soldiers were no slouch. 5. Either, the hardships of the two factions were hard to distinguish. Although Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche kept killing the enemy, The two were not far from the crown prince, but at this moment, Shang Wu Xian moved. She left Leng Yufeng and Huan Emoche and flew to Wu Ju's side. The strange footwork of Shang Wu Xian was as quick as the wind. She appeared near a group of black-clothed men, with an unpredictable movements that were so ethereal. Every move was calculated with traces of controlled movements, just like the death god's dance. Once she raised her hands and moved her foot, it was to harvest a life. At this time, Wu Ju had suffered some injuries. Shang Wu Xian raised her hand and crushed the neck of a black-clothed man, who nearly killed Wu Ju. Bow down. Wu Ju heard the voice of the crown prince, and immediately bowed down. Just as Wu Ju bowed her head, a big sword slashed across where Wu Ju's head was supposed to be. Wu Ju's heart turned cold. If the crown prince did not remind her in time, her head would be gone by now. Shang Wu Xian faced myriad of swords upon swords. At this time Leng Yufeng and Huan Emoche had arrived at the crown prince's side. Both of them blinked at the same time, but the blinked at Shang Wu Xian was somewhat puzzled by it. She did not think much of it and continued to kill. XXT/N note 11. Supposed to be game, but I changed it to food to prevent any misunderstanding. Game, or wild game, in this context means wild animals' meat that you hunt to get. 2. Google translated it as macho man. I think the author meant that as Lyf is a general, and has been to many battlefield, he would be used to the rough conditions and forgot much etiquette or manners while talking to other nobles. So literally bronze before brains. A man who fight first before using his brains? I guess. 3. Shinji Miao Swan is an idiom that described a person who is an expert at calculating/predicting/strategizing the outcome of a situation or a problem, e.g. the famous Zhu Guliang in the Romance of Three Kingdoms series. 4. Bao Chuan. Saluting with both hands. Just Google the Chinese words and see the image. I'm too lazy to explain. 5. SNG Hua. Anyone knows what this word mean? Google translate it as dumping goods. _. Hero Leng Yufeng saves beauty crown prince. A group of men dressed in black suddenly came running down from the mountain. The voice came from Wu Wei, who had not been seen for many days. Hundreds of people dressed in black with blood lotus embroidered on their clothes joined in the fight. With their participation in the fight, the whole situation was quickly cleared. The soldiers looked at the rescuers who had come out so suddenly, and they could finally give a sigh of relief. The first time they saw those black clothes people with embroidered blood lotus rescuing people, they almost screamed out loud. This was because those hundreds of people turned out to be the mountain bandits that they had seen that day. But now, these mountain bandits who wore a blood lotus embroidered black clothes, every single one was very fierce. Where was the shadow of the mountain bandits from before? If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would not know that not so long ago, these disciplined soldiers were the previous mountain bandits who robbed people. Because there were many people who participated in the fights, Shang Wu Xian retreated aside and stood there to watch Wu Wei's recently trained people. After watching them for a while, Shang Wu Xian was very satisfied with the people that Wu Wei trained. After they killed their enemies, Wu Wei with all the people that he brought kneeled on the ground, and with a powerful voice said, "Greetings to Crown Prince." These mountain bandits' attitudes were a bit scared and respectful towards the Crown Prince. They originally had a lot of skills and were quite good at them. But this time every single one of them was trained until a layer of their skin were peeled off. However, they only felt warmth and respect in the training camp, knowing that the reason for their living was to be loyal to the Crown Prince. They were no longer the mountain bandits that everyone reviled. They were now people who have dignity for their skills. "Rise," Shang Wu Xian then asked. "All are here." She had traversed a lot around the mountain hills that day, but if they're really the people that she collected, there should not be these few people only. No. Wu Wei quickly denied. He was afraid that the Crown Prince would misunderstand his own work. "These are the best trained people in the training camp, so this time I took them out. Everyone else is still training, and they'll need a bit more time to be ready to work for the Crown Prince. Take some people to treat the injured soldiers. If it's still not enough, then we'll stay for a few days," Shang Wu Xian ordered. Originally, Shang Wuxian knew that these thousands of soldiers were very powerful. But tonight, Shang Wuxian actually saw the power of these soldiers. They had good cooperation and strong combat capability. If you wanted to train such a team of soldiers, afraid that you had to spend a lot of time to train them. Lung Yufeng thought about it and said to the crown prince beside him, "This is not an ordinary Yulin army." Huan Emoche also nodded approvingly. "This Yulin army is almost the same as your personal bodyguards. No one in the capitals knows about the Yulin army, but this time, they've appeared next to the crown prince. I don't know if..." Shang Wuxian knew that these two people were reminding themselves to pay attention to these people. Shang Wuxian did not speak, but looked up towards the direction of the capital. "Imperial father, you were really attentive." Shang Wuxian felt a slight warmth passed over her cold heart. "Crown Prince, be careful." Just as Shang Wuxian was still feeling the uncomfortable warmth in her heart, she heard Wu Wei and Wu Ju's voices shouted not far away. Her whole person became alert, and she could feel the sound of a weapon breaking the wind coming towards her. The accident came too fast. Shang Wuxian was trying her best to avoid it, but found that she was caught in an embrace full of the smell of sunshine. She heard the sound of a sharp weapon inserted into the flesh, and the smell of blood. "Crown Prince, are you all right?" Just as Shang Wuxian worried how she ended up in another person's arms, she heard a voice filled with worry from above her head. Shang Wuxian's head turned upwards. Her whole body was still held by Lung Yufeng. She looked up and saw Lung Yufeng's sharp chin and thin lips. Those two eyes shone brightly with lights that Shang Wuxian did not understand. Huan Emoche used his folding fan to kill the enemy, who pretended to be injured and dead, and cut off the dead person's head. When he discovered that the crown prince was in danger, both he and Lung Yufeng fought for the first time to took the crown prince in their arms to protect him. But he was too far from the crown prince, and could only watch as his friend hugged the crown prince to protect him. He was just one step slower, only a step. "Yufeng!" Huan Emoche quickly came over to support Lung Yufeng. Shang Wuxian also quickly released herself from Lung Yufeng's arms, walked behind Lung Yufeng, and saw a hidden weapon was pierced at Lung Yufeng's back. If Lung Yufeng did not take her in his arms to protect her, then, at that time, this hidden weapon would pierce directly through her heart. Shang Wuxian used her fingers to check on Lung Yufeng's wound. She then let out a sigh of relief and said, "There's no poison. It's not good to take out the hidden weapon in this place. Get on the carriage." After Shang Wuxian said that, Huan Emoche helped Lung Yufeng to get on the carriage. "I'm all right." Lung Yufeng sat in the carriage. Although his forehead was cold and sweaty, the bloodied man didn't make any more sound. Shang Wuxian's expression did not change. It was as cold as usual. She nodded at his answer, and while examining Lung Yufeng's wound and said, "This prince knows that you are fine. This prince knows that if at that time you did not take action, this prince will die." Lung Yufeng's mouth opened, not knowing how and what to say. When he saw the hidden weapon almost hit the crown prince, he didn't think too much. There was only one thought in his heart that keeps on repeating. Must not let the crown prince injured. Must not let the crown prince injured. 2. Shang Wuxian ripped open Lung Yufeng's clothes, then said to Lung Yufeng, "Bear with it." And then she quickly pulled out the hidden weapon. The bright red blood spurted out and splashed Shang Wuxian's fingers. Huan Emoche took out his handkerchief and helped the crown prince to clean them. As this horse carriage used to belong to Yi Yizhe, so it had a lot of good medicines hidden inside. Shang Wuxian took out a bottle of medicine and smeared them onto Lung Yufeng's wound. In just a moment it stopped the bleeding. XXX, T/N note, /Yulin Army, literally translated to Royal Forest, Army in that order. Yup, you did not see wrong. It's written repeatedly 2 times. Important things must be repeated 2-3 times. And in Mandarin/Chinese words they don't use thinking in your mind, but instead they use heart. As a heart or is a very, very, very important place/organ. Without a heart you will die. The heart is something that can express a lot of emotions, whether if it's anger, sadness, hurt, injured, and so on. So in short, it's used in many expressions. T/N trivia. Your novice/amateur translator skill here. Have to apologize to all the readers out there for the slow translations. She is an OL, office lady, who works 6 days a week, from 07:00–18:00 with only 1 hour break in the afternoon. Have overtime in office at least 2 to 3 days a week. Driving my own vehicle between office and home in one trip took around 45–60 minutes. If there's no traffic jam. Oh, how I hate traffic. And a bad case of health problems. But I still persevere, as I do enjoy translating this story. _V_. Your comments are my supports that shows that you're reading this. I hope that you enjoy reading this story as I do translating it. Although it's slow, hee. Crown Prince. I can do it myself, said Lung Yufeng embarrassedly, while looking at the cut cloth in Crown Prince's hand. He knew that Crown Prince was only going to bandage his wounds. But when he thought of how the Crown Prince was going to bandage his wound, his heart was not calm at all. He's afraid that the Crown Prince will see through how he felt. Oh! Shang Wuxian smiled. Her clear and bright crescent-shaped eyes seemed to shine brightly in the sun. She looked at Lung Yufeng's face that was slowly turning red. After Shang Wuxian handed the cloth in her hand to Lung Yufeng, her eyes looked at Lung Yufeng without seeing him, and could clearly saw how Lung Yufeng's neck turned red too. He took the cloth in his hand, and while gritting his teeth he said, asking the Crown Prince to please turn around. I'm going to take off my clothes to wrap the wound. When he was in the military camp, he had suffered numerous large and small wounds, and at that time he had tended to his wound in front of other men. But now, he did not know why, but doing so in front of the Crown Prince makes him feel awkward. Just like a girl. N.2. Shang Wuxian not only did not turn away, but she still sat on the opposite side of Lung Yufeng while looking straight at him before releasing a sigh. We are all men, why do you need to be shy? When did General Lung become so sensitive? 3. Lung Yufeng was enlightened by Crown Prince's words, thinking why did he need to avoid it as both of them as men? If he made a big fuss about it, afraid that Crown Prince would be able to see his own thoughts. After thinking, Lung Yufeng quickly took off his damaged outer robe, and his black inner shirt, and his perfect upper body was exposed. Wide shoulder, a narrow waist, and a perfect mermaid line abs could be seen going down below, as if to show off his figure. His skin was a healthy wheat color. Shang Wuxian knew that Lung Yufeng had a good body, but was still surprised to see it now. Lung Yufeng naturally had the so-called muscles on his body, but those muscles were not that exaggerated. His upper body had some deep and shallow scars on it. It seemed to be quite a long while back. If it's not because of the identity of this body, Shang Wuxian really wanted to rub Lung Yufeng's perfect body. Of course, it's not because she's greedy for a male body, but such a beautiful body really needed to be appreciated. Not to mention such a charming man. T/N, SWX. You dog you. After Lung Yufeng took off his clothes, he did not dare to look at the Crown Prince. He knew that there were a lot of scars on his body. He once thought that it was normal for men to have scars. He had not thought about marrying a wife, so he did not care about it. However, Lung Yufeng still felt a little afraid that the Crown Prince would be disgusted by those scars. As the wound was on his back, and with the Crown Prince's eyes looking at him, Lung Yufeng tried to bandage it for a long time, but still had not finished doing it. As time passed, it had become more and more embarrassing for him. He really wanted to impulsively get off of the carriage and let other people bandage his wound. Just let this prince do it. Although you did not want to admit it, General Lung was hurt because of this prince. Shang Wuxian said while she took the bandages from Lung Yufeng's hand, while slowly approaching him. Lung Yufeng wanted to retreat, but he could not, as he realized that he's still inside the carriage. Shang Wuxian came near to Lung Yufeng's side. She rubbed the ointment on his body, then used both hands that were holding the cloth strips to bandage Lung Yufeng's wounds. As Shang Wuxian's body was petite while Lung Yufeng was tall, it looked like Shang Wuxian was embracing Lung Yufeng. When Shang Wuxian was bandaging him, her fingers brushed past Lung Yufeng's skin from time to time, and the skin that it touched were flushed red. Lung Yufeng did not dare to move. He felt that as long as he reached out, he could hold the Crown Prince into his chest. Crown Prince's cool breath was sprayed onto his chest where his heart was, and the cool fingers that were at his back from time to time would brush against his skin. Lung Yufeng felt that he was getting hotter and hotter. He looked down to see Crown Prince's focused eyes and white lips. Lung Yufeng suddenly felt that his mouth was getting dry. More importantly, he could faintly feel somewhere on his body was getting invigorated. This feeling was something that he had never felt before. T/N pervert lyf. Hoo. He had never had the urge for a woman, or definitely never for a man. But this time, he really wanted to kiss the Crown Prince's lips. Shangwu Xian was good at dressing wounds like this. After Lung Yufeng's wounds were bandaged, Shangwu Xian raised her head. But didn't think that because Lung Yufeng always looked down at Shangwu Xian, watching her as she bandaged his wounds. As Shangwu Xian looked up so quickly, Lung Yufeng was not able to react. The result was that Lung Yufeng's lips touched Shangwu Xian's forehead. Both of them were immediately frozen in that posture. Lung Yufeng could feel the delicate skin under his lips. He was so surprised that he could not even blink his eyes. His whole senses were focused on the feelings under his lips. Shangwu Xian did not think that when she raised her head, her forehead was kissed by Lung Yufeng. In just a moment she suddenly pushed Lung Yufeng away. Her face became very ugly. If it's not because of the identity of this person and her recent help to him, she would not hesitate to kill the man in front of her. Lung Yufeng was pushed back by the Crown Prince, and his back hit the carriage. The wound on his back was hit, and was very painful, but Lung Yufeng did not mind it. He looked at the cold-faced and distant Crown Prince in front of him and cautiously said, "I apologize, I did not do it on purpose." Shangwu Xian also knew that Lung Yufeng really did not do it on purpose. And currently she was a man, but the nightmare from her past life always reminded her from time to time of the pain that she had experienced. That's why her reactions were so strong. After thinking for a while, Shangwu Xian felt that she really had implicated Lung Yufeng. No problem. After Shangwu Xian said this, she sat down on the opposite side of Lung Yufeng and closed her eyes. When Lung Yufeng saw that the Crown Prince did not have any dislike for himself, his heart was always thinking back to that kiss. He felt that he would cherish this feeling for his whole life. XXX, T/N note. In this line, looked without looking was like how you're facing someone face to face, but are not really looking at their face. N. It's the onomatopoeia for a lot of meaning. In this case it means well. I think SWX means why did LYF become so sensitive / dilly-dallying around. This literally translates to sentimental, but if joined in this sentence it becomes mother-in-law. Hahaha, this part said perfect inverted triangle gold, which makes a bit sense, but not what I want to translate to fit it seamlessly to the sentence, so I changed it to mermaid line abs. Please Google the word to look what it really looked like. You should see an inverted triangle or V line from the hips wide which narrows down below. Back to the capital. The emperor's unclear attitude. The weather in the capital was particularly good. The sun was high above the sky while no clouds can be seen obstructing it. Is it true that the Crown Prince will come back today? Why haven't we seen him yet? A well-dressed man said, while everyone else were standing in the crowd while moving their feet from time to time. Yes, why didn't the Crown Prince come back yet? I didn't know before, but turns out that the Crown Prince is so capable. Another woman said with admiration. Say, all of you, what does the Crown Prince look like? Previously heard from other people said that the Crown Prince was weak and cowardly. But I just know now that that's just a rumor. Don't know if Crown Prince's appearance now is very handsome? A group of women were thinking curiously. Shangwu Xian's great achievements in Fengzhou City had been famous. The people of Fengzhou City had specially written a book filled with the gratitude for the Crown Prince's help and sent them to the capital. The way they portray him is just like a savior that was sent by the god. Back then, no matter if it was the capital's official lady or even a merchant's lady, no woman was willing to marry into the Crown Prince's house. No one loves the Crown Prince. But now, after listening to the each and every single rumors of the Crown Prince's capability and skills, of how after his big self-introduction and his birthday's banquet, and working hard to benefit the people, the news slowly made the women in the capital to look forward to meet the Crown Prince. And there were even many women who wanted to marry into the crown prince's house. Deep inside the capital's city gate tower, there sat the emperor. The ministers were standing outside, knowing the big sensation caused by the crown prince. The emperor had actually came to personally welcome the crown prince. This gesture was only done when the generals won in battles and returned. The princes had never received such a privilege. However, crown prince was the first person to receive this grace. Why hasn't the crown prince back yet? Didn't he know that imperial father is waiting for him at the city gate tower? Shang Chunjiao, one dissatisfiedly said. He was currently staying and enjoying himself in Shaochui. It's the largest brothel in the capital. However, he received a message from his subordinates that he needed to go to the palace to pick up the nasty crown prince. If it wasn't for the father emperor's arrival today, he would not leave. No one dared to reply to Shang Chunjiao's complaints. They had once done wanton slander on the crown prince's incompetence in front of the emperor. But after these few days of investigation, they learned that the crown prince was a sleeping tiger. Who dared to pee on the tiger's head? Even if the emperor's attitude was unknown, but with General Lung and young Master Huan's helping the crown prince, with this kind of support, who dared to underestimate him? At this time, behind the imperial curtain seat, no one in the crowd dared to look up at the Qing emperor. The people below could only saw a bright yellow sedan chair on the tower above their heads. Crown Prince didn't know who shouted at first, but then they finally saw a row of armored soldiers slowly reaching the capital. However, those curious people didn't see the famous Crown Prince, nor the famous General Lung and young Master Huan of Zhenjiang City. As thousands of soldiers slowly approached the city's gate, all of them saw a carriage in the middle of the formation. It was protected by the soldiers. This clearly meant that the Crown Prince was definitely in that carriage. Although many people were dissatisfied with the Crown Prince's attitude, but after thinking that both General Lung and young Master Huan was also in the carriage, no one had raised any objections. The soldiers stopped in front of the city's gate in a neat formation. The people's attention was focused on the carriage, as the carriage's curtain opened, and a man dressed in a blue-colored robe came out of it. Many women's face had turned red. This man was the first young master in the capital, Huan Emoche. A handsome face could be seen clearly, wearing a jade crown on his head. The blue robes were embroidered with gold threads, giving a shiny look lining the robe, while his white fingers were holding onto a jiang zhuang, 2 fan. Huan Emoche gently smiled and walked down and out of the horse carriage. Another man came out of the carriage. When he came out, many ministers were shocked. They did not expect General Lung would accompany the Crown Prince in the carriage. It seemed that the relationship between General Lung and the Crown Prince was very good. Lung Yufeng was wearing a black vest that was fitted to his strong body and enhanced all his facial features. With his cold temperament, every step that he took brought inexplicable pressure that made many people felt difficult to breathe. It turns out to be General Lung. The voice of the people did not stop clamoring. I've finally seen young Master Huan. A woman's amazed voice can be heard. At this moment, both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche, who had already gotten off the carriage, were standing on each side of the horse carriage, while picking up the carriage's curtains apart at the same time. This gesture was originally supposed to be done by other subordinates, but now such gesture was done by such a proud person, surprised many people. It is at this time, a figure emerged from the carriage, and all the people who saw the Crown Prince's appearance was surprised. The man who came out of the carriage, his skin was white as snow, his eyebrows were slightly lifted at the end, his nose was graceful, and his lips were perfectly shaped. Particularly his eyes that shone bright as the stars, revealing wisdom and confidence that could not be ignored like a true nobleman. Long black hair was tied up in a bun on top of his head, with a delicate white jade crown fastened on it. He had beautiful facial features. The ordinary white robes was worn by him gracefully. 3. In just a fleeting moment, the Crown Prince left the eyes of the crowd and walked up to the city gate's tower. Those women had become idiots and were obsessed with the Crown Prince's appearance were still standing there, hoping to catch a glimpse of him one more time, only to realize that the Crown Prince had left. His mysteriousness had just left many people obsessed. At the same time, sitting on the second floor of a tea house, A red-robed man had looked at the appearance of the crown prince, and his eyes were filled with deep thoughts. Wuxia air. 4. An awkward voice came out from the red-robed man's lips. He could only call out to this name behind his back. These past few days after finishing up his own matter, he was ready to go to Fengzhou City to look for Wuxia. But in the end, he did not go, because he needed some time to calm down and think about himself. Therefore, in these past few days, he had endured and suppressed his eagerness to find Wuxia. Han Xianhao 5 was a smart and terrifying person. He had never experienced any love nor women. However, after analyzing his feelings, he knew that he did not like the crown prince, nor was he interested in him. But this deep sense of love, even if the other party was a man, even when he's very clear cold-blooded the crown prince was, he still could not stop falling in love towards such a young man. Xian heir, tell me, what should I do? Han Xianhao looked at the figure on top of the tower. Only this figure could make him felt the warmth in his heart. The three people, Shang Wuxia, Lung Yufeng, and Huan Emoche, walked up to the tower. When they'd arrived, the three of them bowed in the ceremony. Greetings to Imperial Father. Greetings to the Emperor. In the Imperial sedan, no one dared to imagine what the Emperor's expression was like when he complimented. All they could hear was the cold voice of the Emperor. Crown Prince had done very well. I am very pleased. There is a dinner banquet in the evening palace for Crown Prince, General Lung, and young Master Huan. No one thought that after the Crown Princes had made such a great achievement, the Emperor was still so cold to him. This also confirmed the fact that Crown Prince was not favored. The other princes looked at Crown Prince with schadenfreude, while both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche looked worriedly at the Crown Prince. But the Crown Prince still stood there proudly. It seemed that the Emperor's attitude did not bother her at all. The Emperor left the tower just after these few sentences. Many officials who had gotten a glimpse of the Emperor's attitude didn't know whether to congratulate the Crown Prince or not. But they hadn't decided yet before the Crown Prince too left the tower and returned to his own residence. XXX, T/N note, /Shangchenjiao, New Chara. He's one of the princes. His name literally means morning trick, so expect that he'll be either a stupid tricky person or smart tricky person. /Jingzhuangzhishan. It's a type of a handheld Chinese fan. Please Google the Chinese word to see how the folding fan looked like. /Jinpao is a robe worn in ancient China. Google it, and imagine that it's in white and plainer. Suffer with me. For this paragraph was only there to describe how she looked like from the top of her head and almost to the bottom of her feet. Phew. Luckily no descriptions of shoes to be translated. Xian heir, the heir, is a suffix for endearment to denote those on a very close term, and or to those younger than the speaker. Kinda like Japanese suffix, chan, but whereas the Japs use them generally no matter if the person is older than the speaker. Han Xuanhao, another new chara. Who is he? A pining young man. Only the first and last letter of his name has any meaning, which is cold and amp, grand. The middle letter have to join with other type of letters/word to have any meaning. The beautiful man Han Xianhao, Crown Prince. Manager Hai looked at Shang Wuxia with tears upon seeing her entered the house, and then said sharply, Aya, how did the Crown Prince become so thin? This old slave said that he would go together with the Crown Prince, but Crown Prince disagree. Look, Crown Prince has slimmed down into this. Shang Wuxia looked at Manager Hai, who was about to reach out his hand to check on her. She wanted to get angry, but faced with an elder who had her in his heart, she could only give Wu Wei, who was stationed beside her, a look. Wu Wei immediately pulled Manager Hai away and said, Crown Prince is tired from the journey. It's better to let him rest first. Moreover, Crown Prince still need to go to the palace for the dinner banquet. Manager Hai better prepare food for the Crown Prince to eat first. If not, he will be hungry at the banquet. Hearing that, Manager Hai quickly rushed to the kitchen. His speed was not slowed down by his fat body at all. Shang Wuxia looked at Manager Hai's back. Her heart was filled with warmth. Only this Manager Hai had always put herself in his heart. Whether she was a weak person before or a cruel person now, this Manager Hai had never had the slightest hint of betrayal in his heart. To say that he's loyal was true. Say that he's stupid was true too. Shangwu Xian was pleased to have such an elder like this beside her. How's their progress recently? Shangwu Xian asked as she walked. Everything is fine. The guards inside are halfway through in their training. When the crown prince was absent, there were several forces who wanted to break into the residence, but was stopped. Those mountain bandits' training will not take much longer to finish for the crown prince to utilize. Wu Wei replied from behind the crown prince. Are there injuries? Shangwu Xian's face turned slightly cold. Now that these people will be working under her as her subordinate. Shangwu Xian had this. Don't know if it's a good or bad habit. That was protective. She's extremely protective to those she considered her own. Wu Wei's heart immediately warmed up, and she quickly replied. None, the people that they've sent were average at best. Really has nothing to see. Shangwu Xian walked into her bedroom, while Wu Wei stood guard outside her room. In fact, she was very curious. Since she first followed the crown prince, she had never seen anyone waiting close, to the crown prince. Every time she combed crown prince's hair in the morning, he had already finished dressing himself. However, after thinking for a long time, Wu Wei just thought that this was just crown prince's habit, and that he didn't like to have other people near him. When Shangwu Xian entered her room, she saw a red-clothed man lying on her soft couch. Han Xianhao leaned back on the soft couch. His ink-colored long hair was tied up to a side on his chest before falling down like a willow. Not too much, not too less, just enough to add some intoxicating feeling. As soon as she entered the room and looked at the intoxicating view, Shangwu Xian, who was feeling irritated before calmed down, she looked at Han Xianhao lying there and asked, Xianhao, why have you come to my place this time? The trip to Fengzhou City was so smooth. Didn't know how much Han Shuihao helped from behind. Shangwu Xian did not even need to investigate to know. Even though this man was evil, but he had no malicious intent towards herself. Shangwu Xian was someone who will not hate others for no reason. No matter how you say it, both of us can be considered as friends. This friend has come to see Wu Xian, why not? Han Xianhao said while he even threw a wink to Shangwu Xian. He thought. Since he can't bear to let him go, then just be close. Since he like him, then he won't let him go. It's not important whether if they're of the same sex, or with different identities. The key is Shangwu Xian's heart. But you're ignorantly coming to my house. Isn't this like a thief? Shangwu Xian rarely made a joke, and she did not smile at all. Although Han Xianhao was a bit uncomfortable with the situation, but Han Xianhao still had a sense of propriety. Although he had entered her room, he never entered her inner chamber where she sleep, so she did not get angry when she saw Han Xianhao. Han Xianhao turned his body. Shangwu Xian found that what Han Xianhao's wore today seemed to be somewhat seductive. With Han Xianhao's action, the red clothes loosened slightly to reveal Han Xianhao's white jade-like collarbone, which was really a crime. Thief. This one word was spoken a few times out from Han Xianhao's mouth. Then he laughed out loud and said, I really came to be a thief. Because I've come to steal your person, and steal your heart. Han Xianhao silently said in his heart. Go back. Shangwu Xian saw her clothes had loosened and rushed out the words. She still needs to wash. If Han Xianhao is still here, she's afraid that she would still wear the same clothes to attend the palace's banquet. Han Xianhao also knew that everything could not be rushed. He nodded and said, If I have time I will come to see you. If you have any problem you can find me in Star Tower too. That is the intelligence network of Hanqing Pavilion. Star Tower. Shangwu Xian was surprised. Star Tower was a famous brothel in the mainland, but her investigations never found out that it was one of Han Xianhao's power. The Star Tower was not just a brothel. There were many people who liked to talk about things there too. Over time, the reputation of the Star Tower increased greatly, and rumors about the prostitutes in the Star Tower were indeed really beautiful were true. Why is the name so strange? Shangwu Xian was puzzled. As far as she knew, usually the name of the brothel were usually very artistic, but this brothel was called with such a fresh name, which really contradict with the brothel itself. Han Xianhao's body was a little stiff. No one has ever asked him this question. This was the first person to ask where did Star Pavilion name came from. He had dismissed others or even given explanation about it. But now he wanted to tell everything to the young man in front of him. He wanted to share all his weal and woe. 3. With an indifferent smile, Han Xianhao sat up and looked at the young man in front of him and said, "Whenever I escaped from death, I was alone. When I looked up, I can only see the stars in the sky, and that was the most beautiful scenery that I've ever seen. And now, I have finally found the most beautiful scenery that belongs to me." Towards Han Xianhao's painful past, even though it was sad, Shangwu Exan still had not the slightest fluctuations in her emotion. She did not even sympathize. When Han Xianhao saw the impenetrable young man whose heart was not moved at all, his heart was somewhat frustrated. It seemed that the Crown Prince's heart was colder than he had imagined. "Why does the Crown Prince not sympathize me?" Han Xianhao grievingly said. Originally, he had planned if the Crown Prince had sympathized with him, he would be able to take comfort in the Crown Prince's embrace. Although he never needed sympathy, but he still needed Crown Prince's embrace. You don't need it. Shangwu Exan did not even look at Han Xianhao who had been wronged. She lifted her foot and went into the inner chamber. "And I don't have such a carefree heart." Looking at the Crown Prince who had walked into the inner chamber, Han Xianhao also stood up, although he really wanted to go inside too. But he knew that if he really went inside, afraid that he won't have any chance to enter the Crown Prince's house in the future. He pulled on his clothes and tidied it up properly. Han Xianhao looked towards the inner chamber with dissatisfaction. It seemed that today's beautiful man's scheme was unsuccessful. Forget it. Need to keep up the good work in the future. I don't believe that I can't bend the Crown Prince. Han Xianhao left the Crown Prince's house with smile while laughing evilly. At this moment, Shangwu Exan's back who was in the inner chamber suddenly felt cold. Authors off topic. HXH. Exan Air Benzun 4. Is this beautiful? Why don't you come down here to Benzun? SWX. Not interested. HXH. Exan Air. Are you still a woman? SWX. This prince is a man. HXH. Benzun heart is hurt. Asking for comfort. SWX. You can roll away now. End of authors off topic. XXX. T/N note. Waiting here means. You see in those palace dramas, the nobles almost always had an entourage of maids or eunuch following and waiting beside them, or stand and slash outside the room. Yeah, those people will just stand there and wait until their master called slash ordered them to do things. Literally translated to star hug, ahahaha. Which does not make any sense at all. So I changed it into Star Tower 3. Weal and woe dash good and bad slash joy and sorrow slash painful and happy. It's the words that you usually see in wedding vows. OMG. HXH is literally almost proposing without really speaking it out. W. Predicted rewards. Emperor has arrived. Eunuch Su's duck-like voice resounded in the hall, and everyone immediately stands up and saluted. Although the dinner banquet today was for the Crown Prince, Lung Yufeng, and Huan Emoche. However, the emperor who had come to watch the songs and dances below had not even uttered words of compliments, no matter how enchantingly the dancers danced. The atmosphere in the hall had turned stiff. Just when everyone felt that they couldn't stand the atmosphere anymore, the emperor, who was seated in the upper position, mercifully opened his mouth. General Lung and young Master Huan have done a meritorious service. What would the both of you want as a reward? If it was anyone else who encountered the emperor's personal reward, they would have been lost in their happiness. But in contrast, both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche did not even feel a bit of joy. They both knew that if it's not because of the Crown Prince, they would not be able to enter the palace tonight. Emperor, this time's credit for sending the grain to Fengzhou City safely is all on the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince has worked hard. He even had to commit crimes for the safety of the food one. If the emperor wants to reward, the one who should be rewarded is the Crown Prince. Lung Yufeng got up while looking towards the Crown Prince's direction. In the eyes of the other person, they could only see the admiration that General Lung has towards the Crown Prince. But Huan Emoche knew that his friend was not a nosy person. He had hidden his love intention behind it. In order to gain good favor from the Crown Prince, Huan Emoche did not fall behind at all. A gentle smile hung on his face, but Leng Yufeng could clearly saw the provocation that came from his friend's peach blossom-shaped eyes. That's right. There are lots of time where other people have been tempted by Huan Emoche's gentle temperament, but they have not noticed the flaws in Huan Emoche's peach blossom-shaped eyes. What General Leng said is the truth. Crown Prince not only personally took many risks, but he had brought life to the people of Fengzhou City. They have learned how to hunt. He had also bought seeds from other towns to Fengzhou City to be planted by the people, which could be harvested within 2 months. Huan Emoche's eyes were looking at the Crown Prince who was seated above him, with smiles that were filled tenderness that came from his heart. Unfortunately, no one had seen it, and Shang Wuxia did not care. People have more or less heard rumors of the Fengzhou City Reformation, from how the Crown Prince had changed Fengzhou City's life, even to the plaque carved by the people for the Crown Prince that hung above the city's gate. This incident had caused a sensation in the mainland, but now after hearing what young Master Huan had said, every one of them could not stop feeling either admiration or envy towards the Crown Prince. For both famous people in the country to have praised the Crown Prince like so, have let many women take a look at the Crown Prince now. When they thought of what the eldest princess said about the Crown Prince who has yet to marry, many women began to plan in their own hearts. If when they're able to be married to the Crown Prince in the future, even if they did not become the Zheng Fei too, but they could aim to be his Gui Fei 3 instead. Shang Wuxian's eyes turned to look towards the two people who were praising her. At the same time both of them were also looking at her. Shang Wuxian's heart leaped while she blankly looked toward the emperor, who was seated above. At this moment Emperor Shang too was looking at the Crown Prince down below. His eyes were as obscured as ever, but everyone knew that in Emperor Shang's eyes there were no satisfaction and love for the Crown Prince. But even so, Shang Wuxian's eyes still flashed with a smile, which was deliberately shown for the emperor to discover, and sure enough the emperor was slightly stunned, and he unconsciously removed his gaze. Emperor, the well-being of the people in Fengzhou City was all due to the Crown Prince's credit. Emperor, please give rewards. The one who stood was by Shang Shu, who was in the neutral faction, wearing his official's gown, with a sense of righteousness spoke out. However, several officials to have stood up following him. These officials were also in the neutral faction. More importantly, these officials were the emperor's important officials. From this it could be seen how big the Crown Prince's ability was in collecting the people's hearts. What kind of reward does the Crown Prince want? Emperor Huan let these several officials who were seated to get up while letting out a pressure towards them. The hands hidden behind Shang Wuxian's sleeves moved slightly. She stood up. Her every motion was elegant. She looked at Emperor Shang and replied, "This son has become independent and has reached 15 years old. But this son has never had any residence as soldier. This time when we were in Fengzhou City had seen that the 3,000 soldiers' abilities were not bad. Asking Father Emperor to give those 3,000 soldiers as this son's residence as soldiers. Every independent prince has their own residence as soldiers. Each of them probably have around 3,000 soldiers, but that number did not include their own private soldiers. However, the Crown Prince had never been pampered, so even if he had his own residence, he still did not have any residence as soldiers. That's why the Crown Prince reminded everyone of this fact." Emperor Shang took a cup of wine and gently took a sip from it. He did not answer the Crown Prince's question. The crowd and the princes who saw this were instantly very happy. Previously they did not feel any danger from Crown Prince, but the Crown Prince today was a big threat to them. They all felt schadenfreude from watching the emperor's attitude towards the Crown Prince now. Even if the Crown Prince was powerful, then what? If he's not the favorite, then it's still useless. However, just when they're still immersed in their happiness, they heard the voice of Emperor Shang. The Crown Prince's effort was indeed not small. Since the Crown Prince has made meritorious deeds, the 3,000 soldiers will be given to the Crown Prince. The voice of Emperor Shang sounded out, and thus this matter was concluded. That's right, Crown Prince's effort was not small. This consort, remember that the eldest prince was married around this age. Qin Gui Fei smilingly said, "Now that the Crown Prince has also reached this age, this consort too. See that it's time for the crown prince to marry. The eldest prince, Shang Chenjiao, looked angrily at his mother. Then he looked at his younger cousin Wanwan. He knew that his mother wanted Wanwan to marry the crown prince, so that in this way, she could use Wanwan to control the crown prince. However, his mother should have known of his feelings towards Wanwan. Although he usually lingered around women every day, that's just on the surface. The one that Shang Chenjiao really like is Wanwan. This consort also feels that what Sister Qin said is right, said Xianfei. The fingers on her hand have been pulled for. But even then, she still came to the dinner banquet. At this moment, the only one matter left in Xianfei's heart, and that is to pull the crown prince down. She wanted revenge. Shang Wuxian had seen enough of the annoying strategies of the women in the palace. In the beginning, she was still willing to listen and cooperate, but now her patience has been used up. As tonight's dinner goal had been reached, she was not interested in staying here anymore. Shang Wuxian picked up a peanut from his table, then used it to hit Leng Yufeng, who was sitting on the side. However, how can the alert Leng Yufeng be hit by something like this? When the peanut was about to hit Leng Yufeng's arm, Leng Yufeng suddenly moved his body, and the whole peanut was knocked down by Huan Emoche, who was sitting next to Leng Yufeng. Both of them looked toward the crown prince who had taken an action, but they still did not understand what the crown prince wanted to do. Shang Wuxian looked at Leng Yufeng. The impatience was clear in her eyes, and more importantly, she looked at Leng Yufeng's injured back. With this, not only Leng Yufeng understood, even Huan Emoche understood. Huan Emoche's peach blossom eyes were filled with smiles and pampering. He did not think that the cold crown prince would have a naughty time too. Leng Yufeng looked at the crown prince's expressionless face, and didn't know why, but he could see the crown prince's grievances in that delicate little face, turning his heart incredibly soft. General Leng, what's wrong with you? The panicked voice came from the crown prince resounded in the hall. XXX, T/N note. Flashback in previous chapters, where SWX killed some of the hunger-crazed people who tried to rob them when they just entered the city. Zheng Fei, secondary official wife / secondary princess. Gui Feipin, a rank lower than Zheng Fei, or can also said to be royal concubines P.S. See this web for the harem rankings. Remove all the spaces https://infogalactic. com/info/ranks_imperial_consorts_Vina. I don't understand this part and have forgotten about this scene in previous chapters. Anyone can inform me in Discord to refresh my memories? T/in trivia. /BA is an onomatopoeia that the Chinese-speaking people always used in certain circumstances as an emphasis. It's the same like the onomatopoeia as a or la. You can usually hear this commonly spoken in a Singaporean English informal, especially the la one. E.g., don't be like that la. It just means please don't be like that. 47 The adorable manager Hai. After Shang Wuxian washed and changed her clothes, she walked out from the inner sleeping chamber. Wu Wei and Wu Ju had long since waited outside for her, and eunuch Hai Wen was even more exaggerated. He was holding large plates on his hand. The plates were filled with various type of cakes. If it's not because Manager Hai's skill in martial arts was not bad, afraid that he would not be able to hold on for so long. Quick, this is what this old servant told the kitchen to cook. Crown Prince, please try it. Manager Hai put the plates down on the table outside the inner chamber, and with his heart filled with distress said, Crown Prince too? Why didn't you think of sending food to the Crown Prince? See how thin Crown Prince is now. Towards Manager Hai's nagging habit, Shang Wuxian had long been accustomed to it. From the first time she had transmigrated, Manager Hai was somewhat afraid of expressing himself. But now that Manager Hai had known his sense of proportion, he had changed to be able to express his real self. If this prince did not go, how will there be a dinner banquet at the palace tonight? Shang Wuxian said slyly while she tasted a pastry from the plate. Perhaps only in front of Manager Hai can she showed her female side. When facing the emperor she would need to act like a man, even if it's just on the surface. After Manager Hai thought about it for a few times, he too agreed to what Crown Prince said. If Crown Prince did not make any achievements, then no matter how strong Crown Prince was, he would not be able to steadily stand on his feet. The important thing is reputation alone was not good enough. Many times reputation caused fatal injury to the name. Then what should we do? Crown Prince need to take good care of himself too, eh? Manager Hai looked in Crown Prince's thin face that was as big as a palm. His heart hurts when he saw him. These servants too. Why didn't they know how to take good care of the Crown Prince? No, next time Crown Prince leave, this old slave will follow beside you. Manager Hai, those people are not servants but soldiers, but everyone really admired the Crown Prince. This time Crown Prince had even collected thousands of soldiers. Although Wu Ju usually was cold-faced, but he did not disguise his admiration at all. The longer he followed the Crown Prince, the more Wu Ju admired, and felt that it's a blessing to be able to follow such master. Really? Manager Hai looked disbelievingly at both Wu Wei and Wu Ju. Of course it's true. Wu Wei and Wu Ju immediately said. Then they just saw Manager Hai's mouth kept on moving without really knowing what he's saying. But all they knew were the things that he said were all praises towards the Crown Prince. Seeing Manager Hai doing this thing provoked Shang Wu Xian's mouth into letting out a real smile. Unfortunately, that real smile passed by so quickly that the three people did not realize it at all. After Shang Wu Xian finished eating the pastry, the time is not early anymore. After tidying up her appearance, Shang Wu Xian brought Wu Wei and Wu Ju to prepare to leave the Crown Prince's residence. But at the moment she saw the incoming Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche. Both of them came. One dressed in blue clothes while the other in black clothes walked inside the Crown Prince's residence. Seeing the two people here was unexpected. Shouldn't these two people go to the palace? Why have they come to the Crown Prince's residence instead? Crown Prince! Both of them greeted together. Still Huan Emoche is the one who explained. Yufeng and I felt that it's better for us to come to your residence to invite you to the palace together. Even though this matter was very strange, but after all, the three of them have always been together in Fengzhou City, and both of them are considered as the Crown Prince's grand tutor. 1. So there's nothing wrong for the three of them to go together. And Shang Wu Xian nodded. The three of them then got onto the horse carriage to sit. Their seating arrangement was just like before. Both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche sat on the opposite side of Shang Wu Xian. The three of them were silent along the journey. When they arrived at the palace's gate, Shang Wu Xian just remembered something and asked, "How is General Lung's injury?" Even if it's just perfunctory question from the Crown Prince, Lung Yufeng still felt that this was because Crown Prince cared about him. The corner of his mouth was pulled up. Thank Crown Prince for the concern. There's nothing wrong with my injuries, it's not in the way. Huan Emoche, who saw Crown Prince's care towards his good friend, his heart was feeling a bit sour, too. But he knew that these feelings were not something that he should have felt. What's more important was the Crown Prince's attitude towards himself had not changed at all after so many days of efforts. This made the always successful Huan Emoche to be somewhat frustrated. The next road that they walked were also filled with silence. Fortunately, the distance was not too far, and they soon arrived at the palace's gate. It's because the horse carriage from the Crown Prince's residence was allowed to enter directly into the palace. Su Yanlian III brought Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche to enter the palace. The three people's carriage stopped before Taiji Palace, where the banquet party was held tonight. The three of them just came out of the carriage when a female voice can be heard. "Young Master Huan, Big Brother, Crown Prince." Followed by a crisp voice calling, "Crown Prince, Big Brother, Big Brother Huan." Shang Wu Xian first looked at the lady who spoke. Standing not far from them was a beautiful girl wearing red-colored clothes, with two princess knots tied on top of her head. Her white face was soft and smooth like a gelatin, two long and picturesque eyebrows, eyes that twinkle like stars and a ruddy mouth. Her overall temperament was refined, dignified and noble, just like a spotless clean lotus bud. Unfortunately, Shang Wu Xian first paid attention to this lady not because of the lady's appearance, but because of the lady's strange mind. A lady who knew a little common sense should know that when you salute people, The first one to be saluted should be the one in the highest position. So the lady's first salute was supposed to be to her, SWX, then to her brothers, and lastly to Huan Moche. However, this lady turned out to make such low-level mistake. Shang Wu Xan could not help but doubt if this lady had done this on purpose. Wu Wei approached Crown Prince's side and said softly, "This lady is called Lung Tian Tian 5. She's a distant relative from the Lung's house. After her parents' death, she was brought into Lung's house to be taken care of. She was General Lung's younger cousin, and could be considered famous in the capital. You even forgot to do a proper salute. Did the Momo 6 not teach you how to do it?" Lung Yufeng dissatisfiedly said. He never looked at this younger female cousin who lived in the Lung's house. He never even said a single word to her. But today he must reprimand this younger cousin that ignored the proper salutation to the Crown Prince. Lung Tian Tian, who had stayed 10 years in the Lung's house, looked at the big brother that had never said a word to her. She was a little scared. Her big brother rarely stayed in the Lung's house. On weekdays, even if he came back to the capital, he just stayed in the government's house, not even returning back to the house. He who had never paid attention to her. But today, this big brother even reprimanded her in front of young Master Huan. "Big brother," Lung Tian Tian cried with grievance. Her eyes perceptibly looked towards Huan Moche, hoping that Huan Moche would help her. But Huan Moche did not even look at Lung Tian Tian from the corner of his eyes. His mouth was still smiling just as always. "I am your elder cousin, not your big brother," Lung Yufeng said with disgust. He really hates this kind of woman who acted as if she was wronged. No, it's he who have always hated women. Is this the reason why he liked the Crown Prince? Was he really a cut sleeve? Shang Wu Xian just watched as Lung Yufeng unsparingly reprimanded his younger cousin. This kind of lady was really unpleasant. Shang Wu Xian had to admit that she needed to be more careful. If she was not careful, she would be caught in their quarrel. Shang Wu Xian knew from the start that she was not a good person. But if not because for a long time, she didn't have the mood, she would have really died no matter where she went. "Big brother, you need not be so fierce towards younger cousin, eh? Look, you've scared her," the young man that stood next to Lung Tian Tian said. His voice carried a protective tone towards Lung Tian Tian. Shang Wu Xang's gaze moved from Lung Tian Tian's body to the man's body. Saying that he was a man was not right, because he was just a 15 or 16-year-old child. He wore a common dark gray brocade, and used just a piece of green sandalwood hairpin to fasten the knot on his hair. His 5 facial features was carved perfectly, a pair of eyebrows that were slanted upwards towards the end. His face had 5 to 6 points similarity with Lung Yufeng. His pupil was dark and moving, a small and high nose, thin red lips and moist white skin. His mouth was slightly curled up at the corners, revealing 2 sweet dimples. No matter how you looked at him, you could only see a lovable little boy. "Crown Prince, this person is called Lung Zishur 7. He's General Lung's Shu 8, younger brother. His innocent character was loved by General Lung's father." Wu Wei immediately explained, because he was afraid that when Crown Prince needed to know some things, so she memorized many people and things in the capital, towards the complaints of this younger brother. Lung Yufeng did not even care at all. "Big brother Huan, I haven't seen you for a long time." Lung Tian Tian shyly walked closer to Huan Moche, but she had not even got closer before she saw the change in Huan Moche's face. Clearly his face was still smiling, but it was so chilly that made Lung Tian Tian dare not move a step forward. "Young Lady Lung," Huan Moche smilingly said, but his words left Lung Tian Tian face turned white. "I am not familiar with young Lady Lung. Asking young Lady Lung to call me young Master Huan instead." "Big brother Huan, elder cousin is big brother's younger cousin. You are big brother's friend. It's not wrong for elder cousin calling you big brother Huan, eh?" Lung Zishur dissatisfiedly said while he went to Huan Emoja's side. His personality was very straightforward and somewhat cute. Towards Lung Zishur's dissatisfaction, Huan Emoja without a smile present on his face said, "When men and women reach 7 years old, they should be guarded. If young Lady Lung was too familiar with this young master's name, it would not be good for young Lady Lung's reputation." The words that he said seemed to be thinking out for Lung Tiantian, but the rejection in the words were also very obvious. Lung Tiantian's head dropped down. She didn't know what's good for her, while Lung Zisha ran to the crown prince's side. XXX, T/endnote/Taifu. See link for description for this rank https://www.wordsense. EU/%E5% A4% A%E5% 82% 85//swan, sour. In Chinese, sour synonym to the feeling of jealousy/suyin New chara. To know who yet no info. Search Google for this sentence. It's a kind of hair arrangement. /Ling Tian Tian, New chara. She is Lyf's distant cousin. Her name does not have any meaning by itself. /mama/momo. The mama/momo here is not mother, but is an elderly lady who do a lot of work lol. There's a momo for teaching, rough jobs, cleaning/sewing, heavy jobs. Beating women cause when they punish women in the house they won't ever use men to do it. The mistress either told their maids to do it, or they order the momo/mama to do it. /Ling Zisha. He's Lyf's Shu little brother from a same father, but his mother is a concubine while Lyf is the D son. Shu or D. Official wife or the first acknowledged wife of a man is called D wife, so her children too will be called D son of father/family's name. Only a D position in a family can inherit the father's official position, or as head of a family. While the Shu came from the children of the concubines, they do not have the right to inherit any titles or positions unless something happened to the D branch. The children from the Shu branch usually, almost always used to be married off, or took other families' Shu children as their wife/husband. The family usually used the Shu daughters as gifts to a higher position man, or their Shu branch, or to be married off as concubines to strengthen the family's influence. The girls rarely married as a D wife of a D son of a family. They usually married as a D wife of a Shu branch of a family. Lung Tiantian's infatuation. Greetings to the crown prince. Lung Zisha smiled at Shang Wuxian. The lovely dimples shown near the corner of his mouth instantly added an innocent charm to this young boy. Shang Wuxian nodded her head. She didn't have any other thoughts towards this young boy. More importantly, this kind of young boy was outside of Shang Wuxian's world. She didn't expect Lung Yufeng to have such a bright younger brother. That was unlike a child who was raised in a big family. Lung Zisha looked at this exquisite crown prince's look. There was a sudden feeling of defeat in his heart. He originally thought that in this world, his big brother and big brother Huan was already a very handsome and good-looking man. But only after he saw Crown Prince's face did he realize that in this world there were men who could be beautiful too. Looking at the Crown Prince's cold attitude, Lung Zisha's heart was disappointed. For so many years, no matter if it's men or women, there were very few people who acted so indifferent towards him. The majority of them really liked to be together with him. Even his big brother and big brother, Huan, were not that indifferent towards him. Big brother, does the crown prince hate me? Lung Zisha walked to Lung Yufeng's side while frowning with some grievances, although he was not close to his big brother. Lung Zisha had always admired his big brother, but unfortunately, this big brother was indifferent towards him, or to any of his other younger siblings. At least Big Brother's attitude was quite good to him. Sometimes when he talked to Big Brother, he would still pay attention to what he said. Lung Yufeng looked at his eyes for a moment, and turned to go to Taiji Temple. An impatient look was shown on his face. Lung Yufeng never replied to his younger Shu brother's question, and Huan Emoche raised his foot to follow after him. While the sad Lung Tian was forgotten by both of them, even Lung Zisha had ignored her. At this time, Lung Zisha did not know, when he smiled towards the crown prince just now, both Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche's hearts were already feeling uncomfortable. Both of them already knew that although Lung Zisha was young, he was a bright person, and for dark kind of people, it was easy for them to develop good feelings towards this bright kind of people. So from the moment Lung Zisha was close to the crown prince, he had already been hanged by the two madmen in their minds. Younger cousins say, "Do you think that big brother Huan really hates me?" Lung Tian said with red eyes while pulling Lung Zishi's sleeve. From the first time when she met young Master Huan in the capital, she had fallen in love with him. At that time, young Master Huan was practicing the sword with her elder cousin. When that blue clothes were moving along the wind with his movement, the young man's smiling face made her saw spring blossoms. From that moment, she told herself that she would marry this man in the future. That's why for the past few years, she worked very hard in learning female virtues. She took efforts to integrate herself into the capital's aristocratic circle, and won a good reputation for herself. Alas, she rarely saw young Master Huan. Every time she saw young Master Huan, it's either at the palace banquet, or it was when Big Brother and young Master Huan went out together. She also had heard of the rumors of her elder cousin and young Master Huan in the capital, too. But she had never believed them. When she heard that young Master Huan would come to the dinner banquet tonight, she had dressed up herself, but unfortunately, he did not even pay attention to it. All she got was her elder cousin's admonishment and young Master Huan's blind eye. Lung Tian also felt that something in young Master Huan had changed. She could not say clearly which part of him was different, but her woman's instincts made her anxious. Lung Zishi took out his handkerchief and wiped the tears off Lung Tian's face, and said anxiously, "Elder cousin, you don't cry, eh?" He helplessly said. "Big Brother Huan is like this towards anyone. Big Brother is also the same. They don't hate elder cousin, eh? Elder cousin is so kind, how can they hate you?" Lung Zishi said while nodding his head repeatedly. This really made people laugh at his action. Really? Lung Tian looked at Lung Zishi incredulously. Her red eyes looked extraordinarily fragile. Really, not because they hate me? Of course. Lung Zishi patted his upper chest as if to ensure that. How can I lie to elder cousin? Elder cousin is the best woman in the capital. Everyone likes elder cousin, eh? But each person's personality is different. Elder cousin don't think too much about it. After Lung Tian heard of Lung Zishi's consolations, she let out a laugh and happily said, "And it's still Zishi who's the best." After that she pulled Lung Zishi's arms along and walked towards Taiji Temple, while Lung Zishi's cheeks were silently turning red. When Shangwu Xian's entourage walked inside Taiji's temple, the emperor and his titled concubines had not arrived yet, but the ministers, princesses, and princes were already seated. Greetings to Crown Prince. No matter if these ministers were willing or not, they stood up to greet her. Towards this act, Shangwu Xian was very satisfied. After all, with her current identity, she need not salute others here, which went along perfectly with Shangwu Xian's personality. Shangwu Xian sat on the upper seat, while Lung Yufeng and Huan Emoche's seats were arranged just under Shangwu Xian's seat. Although the three were silent, their exquisite faces were still so handsome that the young ladies at the palace banquet were looking at the three men with red faces. In their hearts, they were secretively comparing who was more handsome from the three. Imperial younger brother. Just when Shangwu Xian was feeling a little bit bored, a soft voice can be heard calling for him. Shangwu Xian looked up and saw Princess Shang Qinmi III standing in front of his table with a smile on her face. Shangwu Xian did not get up but just nodded slightly. Imperial elder sister. Her gesture was proud but was full of elegance. Shang Qinmi's hands were clenched, slightly hidden behind her sleeves. She smiled and said, "Imperial brother, your good name is widely known now, eh? By the way, Imperial brother is now around 15 years old, which is of the marriage age. Out of all the princes here, only you have not married yet." Shang Qinmi was generally concernedly as an elder sister. Shang Qinmi's words were not hidden at all. Many people in the hall have heard it. For a time, many women were looking reservedly at the crown prince, hoping that they're the one who caught the crown prince's attention. Lung Yufeng's hand that was holding the wine cup shook. The wine from the cup spilled out a little onto the back of his hand, but he did not even realize it, as he was looking at the crown prince. He is afraid that the crown prince would say something about his marriage to his loved ones. Clearly, he had acknowledged that he was his guardians, but it's really hard to know now. Huan Emoche's smile suddenly stiffened, and the smile which was like the spring breeze turned bitter. which let anyone felt heartache when they saw it. Haha, Imperial elder sister really worried, eh? Shang Wuxian said with a smile. This prince is almost 15 years old. Even Father Emperor is not worried about this prince's wedding. Imperial elder sister is too anxious. However, we have really troubled Imperial elder sister. This prince has no plans for marriage yet. Hearing that, Lung Yufeng and Huan Moche's hearts were relieved. Both of them instantly returned to their usual state. How can that be? Imperial brother, you did not know. There are many young ladies that admire you in this capital. Imperial brother has to live up to the hearts of these ladies, eh? Shang Qinmi pulled up the lady beside her and said, Wan for. You say, isn't it true? The lady called Wan's face had turned red. She raised up her head to look at the crown prince, then shyly lowered her head. Although the voice was small but contained a trace of bashfulness. And crown prince is a man of heaven. 5. See, our Wan really admired crown prince. Shang Qinmi teased. Shang Wuxian raised one of her eyebrows when she saw Shang Chenhao's look that seemed to want to kill her. She instantly understood what Shang Qinmi wanted to do. She looked as Shang Qinmi took the lady back to her seat. Shang Wuxian lowered her head to hide her cold expression. Authors off topic. LTT. Big brother Huan, I like you. HMC. Who are you, a? LTT. I am Lung Tian a. HMC. Roll out. The Emperor arrives. Eunuch Su's voice, which sounded like a duck, rose in the hall. Then everyone stood up immediately and extended their respects. Although tonight's imperial banquet was held for the crown prince, General Lung Yufeng and Child Huan Mosh, the emperor had been watching the performances of song and dance, but hadn't mentioned a word of praise since he came here. Even the seductive dancing girls danced beautifully. The atmosphere in the hall became a little awkward. Just when the crowd couldn't bear the atmosphere, the emperor sitting on the top finally said mercifully, General Lung and Child Huan have rendered great service this time. What kind of rewards would you want? If it were an ordinary man that the emperor personally rewarded, he would be happy beyond words. But on the contrary, Lung Yufeng and Huan Mosh didn't have any sense of joy. Both of them knew that if it were not for the crown prince, they wouldn't have entered the palace, my majesty. It should be all credited to Crown Prince that we could safely ship food to the Fengzhou city. Our Crown Prince spared no pains on the way, and even risked his life to protect the food's security. If my majesty would reward us according to our deserts, Crown Prince should be rewarded firstly. Lung Yufeng stood up, watched Crown Prince and said. It looked like that there was full of esteem in General Lung's eyes. But Huan Mosh knew that his good friend was definitely not a busybody, and what hidden in Lung Yufeng's eyes was his obscure love for Crown Prince. In order to win Crown Prince's favor, Hun Mosh was not willing to be left behind, and he also stood up, with a warm smile hanging on his face. However, Lung Yufeng still caught the provocation in his good friend's charming eyes. Well, the others would often be bewitched by Huan Moche's gentle temperament, but they didn't notice the cunning in his eyes. What General Lung said is right. The Crown Prince did not only risk his life to guard the food, but also help the local people in Fengzhou City find ways to make their livings. He taught them to hunt, and bought some seeds from other counties for them. The local people will harvest their own crops in less than 2 months. Watching the Crown Prince sitting there, Huan Mosh filled his charming eyes with joy and affection, which didn't like the usual false blandness, but were very sincere. Unfortunately, the others didn't recognize that, nor did Shang Wuxi notice that. People had heard some rumors about the reforms in Fengzhou City, and knew that the Crown Prince changed the lives of the local people, some of whom even carved a plague for him, and hung it on the gate of the city, which stirred the mainland. However, hearing Child Huan narrated that in this way, people still couldn't help admiring the Crown Prince or being afraid of him. Both Lung Yufeng and Huan Mosh were big shots in the Shang state. As they praised the Crown Prince, many girls looked at him, thinking that the eldest princess just said that the Crown Prince was not married. Then they all pondered that if they could marry him, even not as the principal consort, they would become an imperial consort, or at least a consort, when Crown Prince took over the throne in the future. Shang Wuxin turned her eyes to the two persons beneath her, who tried their best to show themselves, and they happened to look at her at the same time. Shang Wuxin felt her heart miss a beat, but still remained expressionless, and averted her eyes to Emperor Shang sitting on the top. And at the moment, Emperor Shang was staring at Crown Prince beneath him. As always, it was difficult to understand the look in Emperor Shang's eyes. But everyone knew that there was no satisfaction and care for Crown Prince in his eyes. Nevertheless, a glimmer of smile still flashed in Crown Prince's eyes, and he let Emperor Shang notice his smile on purpose. As expected, Emperor Shang was stunned for an instant, and he withdrew his eyes from Crown Prince uneasily. My Majesty, Crown Prince have made much contribution for the prosperous and contented lives of the local people in Fengzhou City. My Majesty should reward him for what he has done. The man who stood out and spoke for Crown Prince should be the minister, Bai, who had been remaining neutral. He wore his official robe and kneeled down, and his righteousness was showed without reservation. Not in a short while, some other officials also stood out. However, they all usually maintain neutrality, and more importantly, these officials used to be in important positions, from which it could be seen that the Crown Prince was very competent at gaining support from others. What does Crown Prince want as rewards? Emperor Shang, sitting there in a domineering manner, let the officials stand up and asked. Her hands in her sleeves moved slightly, and then Shang Wuxin stood up genteelly. Her every movement was very graceful. She looked at the Emperor Shang sitting above him and said, I have already established my own house and been 15 years old, but I haven't had my own soldiers. I found that the 3,000 soldiers in Fengzhou City are not bad. Why not Father grant them to me? All the princes who had their own mansion all possessed their own soldiers, and each of them owned about 3,000 soldiers, and also had many private soldiers. But as Crown Prince hadn't been favored by Emperor Shang, even he had his own mansion early, he didn't have any soldiers. The moment Crown Prince mentioned it, people all remembered. Emperor Shang picked up the wine cup and took a sip of the wine, but didn't answer Crown Prince's question. The group of consorts and princes became happy instantly. They weren't afraid of the Crown Prince at all before. But these days, they realized that the Crown Prince became a threat to them. Nevertheless, seeing the Emperor's attitudes, they all gloated, thinking that no matter how competent the Crown Prince would be, Emperor Shang wouldn't care him. But unexpectedly, while the consorts and princes were still in good mood, they heard Emperor Shang's voice. Indeed, Crown Prince is not young. As you have contributed a lot this time, I agreed to grant the 3,000 soldiers to Crown Prince. This decision had been made as the Emperor Shang's voice rose. Yeah, Crown Prince is not still young. I remember that when the eldest prince was at this age, he is already married. The imperial consort Qin smiled and said, Now, as the Crown Prince has already been 15 years old, according to our customs, it's time for Crown Prince to get married. In my opinion, Crown Prince should get married. The eldest prince, Shang Chunjiao, looking at his mother, felt annoyed. Then he looked at his cousin Wanwan. He knew that his mother wanted Wanwan to marry Crown Prince, so Wanwan could control Crown Prince. But the eldest prince thought that his mother should know his affection for Wanwan. Although he always indulged himself in flirting with other different women, he really liked Wanwan. I agreed with imperial consort Qin. The consort Xian seconded immediately. Although her fingers had drooped, she still insisted to attend this imperial banquet. At the moment, there was only one thing left in consort Xian's mind: to bring the Crown Prince down. She wanted to revenge. Shang Wuxin had been tired of these women's annoying strategies. She was willing to listen to them and reply to some questions at the very beginning, but for the moment, she thought that she had run out of her patience. She had already got what she wanted in the banquet, so she had no interest in staying here any longer. Shang Wuxin picked up a peanut from the table and directly threw it to Leng Yufeng sitting next to her. But Leng Yufeng was so alert that she couldn't hit him. When the peanut was about to hit Leng Yufeng's arm, Leng Yufeng moved his body slightly, and then the peanut was knocked down by Huan Mosh beside Leng. Both Leng Yufeng and Huan Mosh looked at Crown Prince, but didn't understand what the Crown Prince wanted to do. Shang Wuxin took a look at Leng Yufeng. The impatience in her eyes was too clear. as Shang Wuxing glanced at Leng Yufeng's injured back. Then not only did Leng Yufeng understand what Shang planned to do, but also Huan Mosh got it. Huan Mosh's charming eyes were full of joy and love. He had never expected that the cool Crown Prince would sometimes be naughty. While looking at Crown Prince's poker face, Leng Yufeng didn't know why he could see Crown Prince's grievance and boredom from the delicate face, which softened Leng Yufeng's heart surprisingly. "General Leng, what happened to you?" Crown Prince's panic voice rose in the hall. The crowd only saw that Child Huan was holding General Leng, and Crown Prince, Shang Wuxin, stood up and looked at General Leng with worried eyes. Under the gaze of the onlookers, Shang Wuxin came to Leng Yufeng and supported Leng with her hands. But as she touched his shoulders, she felt her hand wet immediately. Shang Wuxin looked down, and she found that her white fingers had already been dyed red. Shang Wuxin glanced at Leng Yufeng and took her hands off him. At the moment, Leng Yufeng's expression was still grim. Then Shang Wuxin couldn't understand him, as he sometimes would be cool, but sometimes would be like a big boy. Shang Wuxin wanted to leave here, because she was tired of the boring banquet. However, being the Crown Prince, she didn't have enough reasons nor enough achievements that could allow her to leave casually. So, she thought of Leng Yufeng's injuries, which although wasn't serious, could be used as an excuse to leave, and could help her force a showdown. She planned to let Leng Yufeng pretend to feel uncomfortable, and then she could continue to do other things. However, she didn't expect that Leng Yufeng should have used his internal power to get his wound, that was not yet scabbed opened. The crowd had been initially focusing on the people sitting above, and they were stunned when they saw the blood on Crown Prince's hand. Even Emperor Shang sitting on the top stood up from the throne and asked, "What happened to General Leng? Are you hurt?" Shang Wuxin had slightly put down her hand that was stained by blood and pulled back the other hand that supported Leng Yufeng, and said to Emperor Shang, "I encountered an assassination attempt on my way to the capital. I was in too poor health to withstand it myself, and thanks for the protection of General Leng and Child Huan, I could be safe and sound. Unfortunately, there were so many enemies that General Leng was wounded by them." Shang Wuxin intended to let everyone here know that someone attempted to assassinate her. No matter what she had done, she still occupied the position of Crown Prince. And the people present were not unsophisticated. They could easily figure out who dared to assassinate Crown Prince, let alone there were countless cases in history that brothers in palace killed each other. "I'm fine." Leng Yufeng stood up and said, "It's my responsibility to protect Crown Prince. I just feel pity that our Crown Prince suffered a lot for many people want to assassinate him." Emperor Shang looked down at Leng Yufeng with sparkling eyes, which made Leng Yufeng feel strange. Shang Wuxin nodded to the Emperor Shang and said, "In order to protect me, General Leng was injured. I'd better accompany and heal him." Then Shang Wuxin led the way and left the hall. And Huan Mochen shouldered the responsibility of supporting Leng Yufeng with his hands. Therefore, the most important three people all left. Seeing that the three had left the palace, Emperor Shang looked at his several sons and burst into laughter out of extreme anger. Assassination? All the princes felt frightened at the same time. But at this moment Duke Qing, who held great power in the empire, stood out. "The bandits are too rampant. How could they dare to assassinate the Crown Prince and defy your majesty?" Duke Qing, a man above 50, wore a dark green official robe and stood straight, his eyes full of murderous look. Emperor Shang's angry eyes became slashing in a flash, but he didn't continue to investigate these things. While the others couldn't understand why Emperor Shang gave up pursuing the issues, Eunuch Su, standing beside Emperor Shang, got that Emperor Shang had taken great pains. Shang Wuxin, Leng Yufeng and Huan Mosh left the palace in a carriage. The wheels of the carriage kept moving and making sounds, which sounded clearly to the people inside. "Why you did that?" Shang Wuxin took out the medicine and some other necessities from the carriage and asked Leng Yufeng, who didn't say a word since they came out the palace. Although the man sitting in front of her got injured for her again, Shang Wuxin didn't feel guilty or flattered at all. Her ruthlessness was really disappointing. Leng Yufeng looked at the Crown Prince sitting opposite, and felt he returned to the time when Lung first saw the brilliant teenager with lightsome eyes like clouds. But such a pair of sparkling and crystal-clear eyes were shrouded in the mist for years, which in turn made them look like pure and elegant, mysterious and deep, dim and obscure. For the moment, Lung Yufeng realized that he could no longer look at the crown prince as he did before, because he had hidden so many things in his heart that he couldn't tell anybody. Because my crown prince wanted to leave the imperial banquet and let the crowd know the ambitions of the other princes. Lung Yufeng replied. It seemed that after he met the crown prince, he learned how to explain to this teenager. Even he didn't need to say anything in most cases. At that time, as he knew the crown prince's purpose, he decided to directly get his wound reopened. He was clear that it could work if he just pretended to feel uncomfortable, but the others would doubt that, so this was the best way. Shang Wuxin didn't say a word of thanks, but stared at Lung Yufeng's clothes. Lung Yufeng's neck became red as he recalled the scene that the crown prince bound up his wound for him, which made his heart stirred. Afterwards he had thought of the scene for many times, but he didn't expect that the scene would happen again. Looking at these two people, Huan Mosh felt sad. He forced a smile and said, I have other things to do, so I'd better leave first. Then he opened the curtains and got off the carriage. He was afraid that he would do something irreversible if he continued to stay here. He was confused, really confused that why Crown Prince always neglected him. Shang Wuxin didn't care at all about Huan Moshe's sudden departure. As to Shang Wuxin, if Huan Moshe hadn't been helping her all the time, just for Huan Moshe's eyes, she would have killed him. For the moment, she couldn't kill him, but could neglect him. However, Lung Yufeng knew very well what happened to his good friend. Huan Moshe was jealous of him. Take off your clothes. Shang Wuxin, holding the medicine and a strip of cloth in her hands, said seriously. And she was serious indeed. Even she didn't want to acknowledge Lung Yufeng's help. But he had really helped her. Lung Yufeng's neck became red. Then he took off his robe and tops. Although Shang Wuxin had already appreciated Lung Yufeng's good figure once before, she couldn't help heaving a sigh in her heart that handsome men could also make a person obsessed. After all, a man looked like Lung Yufeng was indeed a feast for the eyes. Shang Wuxin applied medicine on Lung Yufeng's wound first, and then dressed it. During the process, they got close to each other inevitably, for which Shang Wuxin didn't feel a thing, while Lung Yufeng was hiding the wonderful feeling of the moment in his mind carefully. After that was finished, Shang Wuxin glanced at Lung Yufeng and said, General Lung, I think it's time for you to go back to your mansion. As she had already left the imperial palace, she would like to burn the bridge after crossing it. Lung Yufeng, who became more and more faithful to Crown Prince, didn't feel annoyed at all about what Crown Prince had said. He nodded and got off the carriage. However, after Lung Yufeng left, Wu Ju walked to the carriage and got on. He handed a clean handkerchief to Shang Wuxin. Shang Wuxin took it, wiped her hands and said, Return to the mansion. Authors off-topic. Shang Wuxin, take off your clothes. Lung Yufeng, my crown prince, what do you want? Shang Wuxin, take off your clothes. Lung Yufeng, I am scared. Shang Wuxin, okay. Never mind. Lung Yufeng, my crown prince. He had already taken off all his clothes. Shang Wuxin, get out of here. Shang Wuxin threw the handkerchief out of the window in the carriage, and the white handkerchief flew away with the wind. Today's dinner party had nothing special happen, but Shang Wuxin felt really tired as her poisoned body was not good. That was why she wanted to rush out of the palace. She knew very well that if she worked too hard like this, the poison in her body would break out in advance. Shang Wuxin narrowed her eyes slightly and rested on the carriage. At this moment, she had to lament the contribution of the miracle doctor. This carriage was indeed very comfortable. It would take some time and efforts if she wanted to have such a carriage with her statue nowadays. She wondered if the miracle-working doctor would help her if she found a way to hide her gender. As she was distracted, the carriage suddenly stopped. When Shang Wuxin was about to ask what happened outside, the curtain of the carriage was suddenly lifted, and a woman came up from outside. The hands in Shang Wuxin's sleeve slightly became a fist since that woman fell in Shang Wuxin's arm, because her unbalanced standing. The The girl was wearing a blue crochet-pleated dress and a light and opaque veil on her face. Although she didn't show her appearance, her bright, elegant and charming eyes had already reflected her beauty. "Prince!" There were the crying from Wu Wei and Wu Ju outside the carriage, but they didn't dare to break into the carriage. They knew that the prince's habit was strange and frightening sometimes. "I'm okay." Shang Wuxin pushed away the girl in her arms, and then arranged her clothes, even it wasn't messy. She also took out a handkerchief to wipe the hand that had just held the girl. She acted like an elegant prince. Nangong Lian was chased by others, and she saw a luxurious carriage in front of her on her running way. Even though the surface of the carriage had nothing special, but she had saw too many luxurious things, and knew at a glance that the carriage was an expensive one. Nangong Lian thought that there should be a lady in the carriage, since there were 2 maids driving the carriage. Only lady put women in a position of importance. An ordinary man would look down on women. So she rushed into the carriage in a hurry, but she ran into the slightly cool arms and smelled a very demagogic fragrance of flowers. Before she recognized what it was, she was mercilessly pushed away by the owner. Nangong Lian sat on the carriage and looked at the owner. The first thing Nangong Lian noticed was the eyes of the owner, which were as calm as dead water. It seemed that nothing could wave its emotions. It was really cool and indifferent, as everything in the world is nothing. All things in the world were not seen highly in this pair of eyes. The nice and cold eyes were belonged to a teenager boy. When Nangong Lian found that the owner of carriage was a man, she admired his appearance, even she had been used to her brother's peerless look. Nangong Lian's face was a little red under her veil. She sat opposite the young man and tried to say, "Thanks," sheepishly. But before she had finished speaking, the veil that she was firmly wearing suddenly left her face because of the running and bumping. Nangong Lian was pale immediately and wanted to pick up the veil in a hurry. However, the veil was picked by the young man opposite first. Nangong Lian bit her lips and looked up with widened eyes. The young man looked at her with her veil in hand without despising, dislike or fear. He was so calm. Nangong Lian suddenly wanted to cry at this moment. This was the first man who saw her face, but didn't scream and dislike her. At this moment, Nangong Lian didn't know why she felt aggrieved and wanted to cry. She didn't cry for many years, but now she shed tears in front of a stranger. At the first sight of this woman, Shang Wuxin was interested in her. She had beautiful eyes without flashiness as ordinary girl. What was more, Shang Wuxin felt good at this first meet with the girl. So she didn't kill her, although the woman broke into her carriage. Now, Shang Wuxin knew the reason why this girl wore a veil, after viewing her sad looking. It was different from a long scar of Wu Wei. This girl's left face was branded with the word bitch. Although it had been a long time branded, the word still existed on her face. As time passed, it turned into a light red scar, which made her original charming face horrible. It was an accident for Shang Wuxin to see a girl crying in front of her. This girl looked like a tough person. How could she cry so easily? Shang Wuxin doubted whether she was right or wrong to not kill this girl immediately. When Shang Wuxin felt impatient and wanted to throw the girl out, the girl wiped the tears on her face randomly, and then said with a smile, "You're the first person who didn't dislike the scar on my face. Everyone felt disgusted and despised of me when they see me." Shang Wuxin didn't respond to the woman's words. In Shang Wuxin's mind, everyone loved beauty, but if someone concerned too much about his or her appearance, he or she would be always tired in the end. Shang Wuxin passed the veil to the girl, but the girl didn't hurry to take the veil. She stared at Shang Wuxin curiously and asked, "Are you a civil of Shang State? Where are you from?" Nangong Lian thought that such a gorgeous young man should be very famous in the mainland. How could she have never heard of him? At this time, someone stopped the carriage suddenly. Wu Wei shouted with killing intention, "Who dared to stop?" Wu Ju was about to step out to fight. It was a dereliction of duty, just now, since they had let people rush into the carriage. If these people disturbed the prince again, they were afraid that the prince would be really angry. "We saw a woman with a veil enter the carriage just now. Hand her out quickly," a few men outside announced. Both Wu Wei and Wu Ju had noticed that these people were good at martial arts. Nangong Lian's body stiffened, and she looked at the opposite young man, wondering whether he would hand over her or not. After all, they were only meeting for the first time. If she was handed over at this time, Nangong Lian would not resent him, because this was the most rational way. How dare you? Wu Ju had drawn out her long sword with her words. Wu Wei stood close to the curtain of the carriage to keep others away. Since you don't hand over the girl, don't blame us for being rude. There were several people shouting angrily. If it wasn't in Shang state, they would have killed people in front of them. Even though the carriage was luxurious, they thought there should be only a rich merchant in it. So they were ready to fight without hesitation. Just when everyone was ready to start, an ice-cold voice in the carriage emerged, which made people feel cold all over. Being rude? I'd like to see if there are any bastards in the capital who dares to be rude to Crown Prince. A voice startled the people outside who wanted to break into the carriage. Nangong Lian, who was in the carriage, asked in surprise, "Are you Shang Wuxin, the Crown Prince of Shang State?" Nangong Lian was not a stranger to this name. It was once heard that the young man was thin and timid, but he became a talented and gorgeous man later. People loved him very much. She used to be curious about Shang Wuxin, and she didn't expect to see him today. He was really matched with the word gorgeous. When these people heard that it was the Crown Prince of Shang State in the carriage, they knew that they had to turn back empty-handed. They bowed to the carriage and said, "Your Excellency will leave right away." They would not be afraid of Crown Prince of Shang State before. But now they knew that the prince was not simple after hearing his deeds. So they choose to leave and don't fight against with it. "Leave? Where do you want to go?" Shang Wuxin stroked his sleeve. "I think you'd better stay in the Shang State." Then Shang Wuxin picked up a teacup in the carriage and threw it out. A man outside was suddenly shoved into his mouth with the tea leaves, and was killed by Wu Wei with her long sword at his throat directly. Wu Ju also jumped out of the carriage, and killed people who wanted to escape from the quiet alley. When there was no movement outside, Wu Wei and Wu Ju took out handkerchiefs to wipe the sword and clothes till they were not stained with blood, and sat outside the carriage again. Shang Wuxin picked up the curtain, and saw the dead bodies outside. There was a bad smell of blood in the alley. Shang Wuxin ordered in a cold voice, "Tell Bai Shaolin to deal with it." Anyway, it was subordinates' duty to deal with the mess. When the carriage stopped in front of the mansion of Crown Prince, Shang Wuxin didn't get off. Instead, she just looked at the girl in opposite, showing an obvious meaning of unwelcome. Nangong Lian wore her veil again, and asked fawningly, "Prince Shang, would you mind approve my living in your mansion for a while? Just for a while, is that okay?" Nangong Lian didn't know why she wanted to bother Prince Shang, even clearly knowing that Prince Shang was as unkind as her elder brother, and was not a good person at all. Yet Nangong Lian, a princess with no friends since her childhood, appreciated Prince Shang very much, and thought Prince Shang was much better than many other people, though Prince Shang was cool, indifferent and ruthless. "No." Shang Wuxin refused, and was about to get off the carriage, only to find her large and long sleeve was seized by Nangong. Seeing this, Shang Wuxin got a cold face. Then, Nangong Lian withdrew her hands with fear. Afterwards, Shang Wuxin cut off her sleeve with her hand. Seeing Prince Shang's action, Nangong Lian pouted. Even Nangong herself didn't realize that she would act like a spoiled child in this way, only when she stayed beside her elder brother. Nangong Lian muttered, "What a loathsome misophobia. Prince Shang was just as annoying as my elder brother." Though Nangong Lian complained in a very low voice, Shang Wuxin still heard Nangong's words clearly. A hint of displeasure flashed through Shang Wuxin's eyes, yet Shang didn't stop her pace. As expected, when Shang Wuxin was about to get off the carriage, it came the voice of Nangong. "Please help me, okay? I will not bother you for a long time, and someone will pick me up soon." Shang Wuxin turned around her body a little, and her thin body shimmered with a blast of charm. Shang Wuxin tilted her jade-like face and gazed at Nangong Lian, asking in a low voice, "Who are you?" Hearing Shang's question, Nangong Lian instantly became alert. Since Nangong always told herself not to expose her real identity, and she had been hiding it very well. However, Nangong Lian couldn't utter any deceitful words at the sight of Shang's cool side face. And it seemed that in front of Prince Shang, any lies would offend Shang's majesty. Can I trust you? Nangong Lian unconsciously spoke out her inner words when looking at Prince Shang. Shang Wuxin was somehow surprised once in a blue moon, yet she didn't put her eyes on Nangong Lian. No one knew what objects did Shang Wuxin put her empty eyes on. And it seemed that Shang didn't look at anything at all. Shang Wuxin answered significantly, "Whether can I be trusted is up to your heart. However, if I were you, I would not trust." Nangong Lian, who was originally alert, suddenly smiled, with sincere joys in her eyes above the veil. Nangong looked at Shang's side face and answered, "I am Nangong Lian, the princess of Nangong State." Though puzzled about the unexpected trust from Nangong Lian, Shang Wuxin appreciated Nangong even more. Shang Wuxin got off the carriage, without a word, while Nangong Lian followed behind Shang tightly, with pleasant smile in her face. Wu Wei and Wu Ju shrank their eyes, due to surprise at the sight of Nangong Lian, who got off the carriage after Shang Wuxin, because they had never seen Crown Prince showed any interests in any girl since Wu Wei and Wu Ju began to be Shang's servants. But now, this girl was permitted to follow behind Crown Prince easily, and thus Wu Wei and Wu Ju thought it might be possible that Crown Prince really wanted to marry at this age. Getting off the carriage after Crown Prince, Nangong Lian found there straightly stood two servant girls. Both of those two servants were dressed in black. Among them, one had a cool look and gave off an indifferent air, possibly because she always followed Crown Prince for serving the prince, and had learned the same demeanor of Crown Prince, while the other servant girl looked very gentle, and her eyes were full of wisdom. However, what made Nangong Lian astonished was that there was a deep wound in the cheek of the second servant girl, which directly destroyed the girl's originally beautiful face. Yet, neither did that girl take any measures to cover that wound, nor did she show any meaning of self-abandonment. At this moment, Nangong Lian appreciated the Crown Prince more. Except for her elder brother, Prince Shang was the first one Nangong admired among the young people of all states. After entering into the mansion of Crown Prince, Nangong Lian still followed behind the prince. Though Wu Wei and Wu Ju also followed after the prince, they still kept alert to the girl beside them. After all, Wu Wei and Wu Ju didn't know the girl's real identity, and thus, they might as well to be more cautious. Chief Hai piled his face with many smiles at the sight of the returning of Crown Prince. However, Chief Hai's face became stiff when he saw the girl behind the prince, and suddenly felt slightly sad. Hai wondered whether Prince really took herself as a man, and wanted to have intercourse with that girl. Though Hai would unconditionally support the prince no matter whom Prince adored, he was still puzzled about Prince's choice, and gazed at Nangong Lian unfriendly when thinking of the fact that the so-perfect prince would adore such a girl. "Stop your random thinking," Shang Wuxin said to Chief Hai coldly, interrupting Hai's thinking. Then, Shang Wuxin cast her eyes at the girl behind, Nangong Lian, and said, "Arrange a room for this girl. She will live here for a while." After finishing those words, Shang Wuxin walked to her bedroom, with Wu Wei and Wu Ju accompanied. After walking into bedroom palace, Shang Wuxin sat beside a table and poured a cup of water for herself. Then, Shang poured a cup of water for Wu Ju and Wu Wei respectively. Wu Ju and Wu Wei took over the water and sat in front of the table, restraining themselves from kneeling. It was when both Wu Wei and Wu Ju felt puzzled. Shang Wuxin put down the cup in her hand and said to Wu Wei, "You can dispose Shang Chunjiao at your own will, and I will not step in your treatment towards him." Hearing this, Wu Wei knelt down on the ground due to her fear for Shang Wuxin, tears dropping to the ground along her scarred cheek. "Crown Prince," Wu Wei said in a tremulous voice. Then, Wu Wei lightly lifted up her knelt body and asked, "Your Highness knows all?" "No, I don't know," Shang Wuxin replied. "But I know that you entered the mansion deliberately with some intention at the beginning. Now you are strong enough to do what you want. You have been conceiving your intention well. But every time when you met Shang Chunjiao, you showed strong killing intent. I have no interests in your bad past. You can do whatever you want." Wu Wei trembled and crawled on the ground, while Wu Ju also knelt on the ground. After getting along with Wu Wei in those days, Wu Ju had become the friend and sister of Wu Wei. However, now hearing the words of Crown Prince, Wu Ju wondered whether Wu Wei had been utilizing the Crown Prince all the time. Wu Ju sighed in her mind how silly Wu Wei was. Yet Wu Ju didn't make any plea for Wu Wei since she knew who was their master, and had her own discretion. Crown Prince. Wu Wei scrambled up to the feet of Crown Prince. At the beginning, I indeed had my own intention, and supposed that staying at the mansion can not only help me to settle down, but provide me many opportunities of getting close to Shang Chenjiao and kill him. However, since the day when Prince appointed me as your personal servant, I perished that thought. After explaining, Wu Wei gave several fierce kowtow to the ground. Well, Shang Wuxin supported Wu Wei up and said, I know that. In the simple but luxurious resting palace, the handsome young man helped the trembling and crying girl to stand up. The young man looked as if she were at a loss. Your Highness. Wu Wei held her hands very tightly, even if she knew she was breaking rules, and even if she knew the Crown Prince might cut off her hands, she was hesitant to let her go. That was the last thing she wanted to do. Holding the hand of the Crown Prince, Wu Wei explained, I used to serve at the mansion of eldest prince. After my parents died, I lived with my little sister. She was a gorgeous girl, but she didn't expect anything she shouldn't. We had been living with great care. But one day, the eldest prince had a crush on her. He raped her in his garden, and he asked his guards to watch them. As she spoke, she couldn't help releasing her killing intent. She continued, My little sister felt so humiliated that she killed herself by knocking on the rockery inside the garden. When I knew the truth, I wanted to revenge her. But I always failed. Instead, I got my face scratched by sword when I was trying to assassinate the eldest prince. Shang Wuxin looked down at her hand, but held back her anger. When staring at her close friend, Wu Ju sighed and wondered how to comfort her. Wu Wei looked at Shang Wuxin's pale hand, as if she were holding her savior. She confessed, The eldest prince's guards have been tracing me. That's why I hide myself inside your mansion. It's quiet and safe enough to stay here. And I'm also able to approach the eldest prince. I confessed that I wanted to use you, your highness. But since I worked for you, I have never thought about that again. After she finished, she let go of Shang Wuxin's hand. She knew she was waiting for the answer. Would Shang Wuxin trust her? If Shang Wuxin did, she would still be a maidservant. And if Shang Wuxin didn't, she would revenge her little sister, and then kill herself as an apology. She didn't take action all along, just in fear that she might spoil Shang Wuxin's plan. Unexpectedly, Shang Wuxin still saw her through. Since you're with me, how could anyone else bully you? Who does Shang Chenjiao think himself is? Answered Shang Wuxin with an evil smile. She added, Just do what I ask you to. Since when did you become so nagging? With appreciation and joy in her eyes, Wu Wei cried harder. Wu Ju went up and gently hugged her. Wu Wei pursed her mouth and wailed bitterly. Will you stop it? Scolded Shang Wuxin. Wu Wei was crying louder, which totally used up Shang Wuxin's patience. If Wu Wei weren't her subordinate, how would she allow her to be so presumptuous? She even wept so hard. What a shame to her name. Gradually, Wu Wei stopped crying. Thinking of the kindness from Shang Wuxin, she couldn't help smiling with swollen eyes. Kneeling at Shang Wuxin's feet, she flattered, Thank you, your highness. Shang Wuxin nodded. To be honest, she wasn't interested in Wu Wei's past. When she knew, all she did was to sigh. Besides, she knew what Wu Wei wanted from the very beginning. If she were disloyal, she wouldn't have tried to kill the eldest prince, considering how powerful she was. But Shang Wuxin had to admit that Wu Wei knew how far to go, and she made a great subordinate. Otherwise, Shang Wuxin wouldn't have treated her as one of them. Your highness. Wu Wei calmed down, stood up and said respectfully, Now, all the other princes are keeping an eye on us. If we take action and get caught, I'm afraid it'll harm you. It was important to take revenge, but Shang Wuxin's plan mattered more. She would manage to take revenge someday, but if she brought any trouble, they would need more efforts to fix it. Humph, murmured Shang Wuxin with a cold smile. She added, Do you think the other princes will let go of me? The eldest princess wasn't joking today. Getting married. Shang Wuxin sneered secretly. If she got married, her wife would live like a widow. More importantly, the girl named Wanwan wanted to marry her, out of no reason. Obviously that really annoyed Shang Chenjiao. How will Shang Chenjiao deal with me? Thought Shang Wuxin when she was somehow expecting. Do we need to? Asked Wu Wei. The girl named Wanwan gave really a disgusting look to Shang Wuxin at dinner, as if Shang Wuxin were her husband. And this clearly enraged Shang Chenjiao. Show yourself. Suddenly, Shang Wuxin yelled at the outside. Nangong Lian walked in embarrassedly, but she was stopped by Wu Wei and Wu Ju before she managed to enter the resting palace. I didn't hear anything. Nangong Lian raised her hands and promised. She was telling the truth. She was so boring that she wanted to talk to Shang Wuxin. Unexpectedly, she was scared by Shang Wuxin's voice even before she knocked at the door. Shang Wu certainly knew she had heard nothing. She reminded Shang Wuxin of her biological brother, namely Prince Nangong Qian, the most powerful prince in Nangong State. It was rumored that an imperial maid gave birth to Nangong Qian and Nangong Lian. She died when Nangong Qian was 10 years old. Without any power, Nangong Qian should have been living a hard life in the palace. He did in the first few years. Then he amazed the world at the age of 16. That year, other princes recommended Nangong Qian to go to war. Everyone thought he would have been killed in the battlefield. Unexpectedly, instead of getting killed, he defended his state, and even captured some cities from other states. It was exactly when he became famous all over his state. Meanwhile, there were other rumors that he was handsome, but enjoyed harming officials. Those rumors were spreading so widely that Shang Wuxin heard a lot. Don't wander about in my mansion. If you get killed, I won't take responsibility, said Shang Wuxin. However, she clearly knew that this girl mustn't die in Shang's state, just because she was Nangong Qian's little sister. Shang Wuxin didn't want to make such big trouble for herself. Nangong Lian knew the crown prince was telling the truth. She didn't know why, but she felt that the crown prince wouldn't trust her. Also, she was clear that she liked this guy, but not that kind of feeling between lovers. It was something weird that she failed to describe. I see, promised Nangong Lian. When she thought that her brother would soon send someone to take her away, she felt hesitant to leave. The crown prince's mansion was cold, but was like a real home. Especially, the crown prince talked to her maidservants and the chief in the way that reminded her of her terribly lonely brother. She wondered what it would be when her brother met the crown prince. Your Highness, said Chief Hai. He walked into the resting palace, without even looking at Nangong Lian who was stopped out there. He felt glad when such a plain girl failed to attract the crown prince. This is the invitation from the eldest prince, said Chief Hai. Your Highness, you're not invited alone. Other princes are also invited, with a girl named Wanwan. You must be careful, Your Highness. Chief Hai had heard about what happened at dinner, so he realized that the eldest princess must mean something evil. Tell them I will go. Shang Wuxin put down the invitation and went into the resting alone. Bro Huan Mosh got off the cart, holding back the pain in heart. He was going to have some rest in Zhuish restaurant. That was his business. Though he appeared to be an underprivileged man in the capital city, he wouldn't really be one. If he could do nothing but play around, why would His Majesty put him in such an important position? And why would other ministers flatter him? For example, among those ministers who supported the crown prince, some of them took the order from Huan Mosh. Just for such power he had, he could never be underestimated. Hearing her voice, Huan Mosh flashed a disgusted look. He stopped and looked around at Lung Tiantian behind him. His voice remained, but he sounded cold. I'm the only child of my father. Miss Lung, please mind the way you call me. Lung Tiantian took fast hold of her handkerchief. At dinner, she saw Mr. Huan held Bro Lung and left the palace with the crown prince. Mr. Huan seemed to care much for her cousin, but she didn't feel it right. She kept an eye wherever Mr. Huan turned up. That was why she found that Mr. Huan, who looked gentle but never cared for anyone, looked frequently at the crown prince when they were at dinner. Lung Tiantian had never seen this similar look in Mr. Huan's eyes before. That was too enthusiastic and crazy. It was then that Lung Tiantian realized Mr. Huan only treated her cousin as a close friend. But he treated the crown prince as something else. Something very different. When she walked out of the palace, she was scared. Just then, she saw Mr. Huan flew out of the crown prince's cart. The anger in his eyes looked strange, but he didn't seem to be annoyed. She buckled down to walk after him. She thought carefully before she stopped him. Unexpectedly, how she called him simply disgusted him so much. "Mr. Huan!" yelled Lung Tiantian with anger. It had been years since she became crazy about him. Couldn't she even call him? Could Mr. Huan really fall in love with a man? The more she wondered, the more awkward she felt. Over all these years, he had never got close to any girl. He didn't even touch any of his maidservants. Could he really like men? What if he really did? Who would she do? How could she realize her dream? Looking at the darkness, Huan Mosh said, "It's getting late. I think you'd better go back home early." As soon as he finished, he was about to leave. In the blue robe, he was almost going out of her view. Getting upset, Lung Tiantian asked directly, "Mr. Huan, do you like someone?" It had been the first time that she asked such a question in front of a man she adored. Lung Tiantian felt not only scared but also shy. Her beautiful face shone more brightly with such shyness. Huan Mosh disdained to answer such a question. But hearing that question, the figure of a young man popped out in his mind, along with the cold eyes and pleasant smell. He replied, "Sure I do. That's my love." But he didn't know if he was replying to Lung Tiantian or saying to himself. He loved that young man so much that he came to believe that intrigues were not the greatest thing in this world, but unreachable love was. Lung Tiantian stopped. She wanted to reach out and hug the gentle but cold man. However, before she could get close, he disappeared in the moonlight and left her alone, thinking about what he had replied. After a long time, Lung Tiantian no longer looked sad. Strong feelings of jealousy struck her. How could a man be with Mr. Huan? Even if they had feelings for each other, so what? How could others accept them? She must get Mr. Huan. "Cousin," Lung Zisher trotted to her and asked worriedly, "Cousin, where did you go? I've been looking for you. Why don't we get back home early? We shouldn't be too late." As he said, he held her arm like a kid. Lung Tiantian gave a scheming look. Seeing the tears of his cousin, Lung Zisher panicked. He asked hastily, "Cousin, what's wrong with you? Did anyone bully you? Tell me. I will defend you." As he spoke, he rolled up his sleeves as if he were going for a fight. Such an innocent boy could always win universal favor. "No." Lung Tiantian stopped him. She mumbled a lot before she finally explained, "I'm complaining for my cousin and Mr. Huan. You know what? The crown prince seems to be a gay. I wonder how cousin and Mr. Huan will get on with him." "Cousin, you don't trust me?" she asked and wept. She added, "I always think we're the closest families. My parents died at a young age. When I came to your home, I could depend on no one. But you were kind to me. I thought we would always trust each other. But you..." As she spoke, she wiped her tears. "What?" asked Lung Zisher in disbelief. How could a gorgeous boy like the crown prince be a gay? He was so handsome that he even looked as elegant as the lotus. He seemed to be the purest man in the world. How could he be a gay? Lung Zisher didn't want to believe that. "You think I'm lying to you?" Lung Tiantian asked and sobbed. Her weeping face looked quite pitiful. She repeated, "After my parents died, I came to your home. You were the first one who treated me nicely. I used to think we would trust each other. But I didn't expect you to." As she spoke, she wiped her tears. "Cousin, don't cry," said Lung Zisher. He raised his hand to wipe her tears. Then he hurriedly promised, "I believe you." After Lung Tiantian stopped crying, Lung Zisher asked carefully, "Cousin, do you like Bro Huan?" When he asked, something flashed in his eyes. Lung Tiantian murmured. The question shocked her. She was so embarrassed that she didn't know how to answer. But before she figured out how to answer, Lung Zisher added, "Cousin, you're the best. You're the perfect match for Bro Lung. I'll help you." He sounded as innocent as he used to be. "Really?" Lung Tiantian asked happily, with her eyes wide open. "Certainly. Why would I lie to you?" Promised Lung Zisher, who clenched his fists and had his head tilted to one side. He looked so cute that Lung Tiantian couldn't help laughing. With green grass around, flowers were in full bloom. A stream wound its way down the flowering shrubs. In the north, there was an open space. Pavilions stood aside, and the carved banisters were hidden among the trees. Look down, the stream ran through the rocks. The cloud floated over the pool, and the stone bridge was over the pool. This was a graceful villa. Inside the study, a man in purple was reviewing a memorial to throne in front of his desk. "My lord," said one of his subordinates who walked into the study. "Did you find her?" asked the man in purple. He still held the memorial to throne and sounded cold. "Yes. Her Highness is in the Crown Prince's mansion of Shang State. The Crown Prince saved her," replied his subordinate. "Get ready and we're going to Shang State," said the man in purple, who put down the memorial to throne and stood up. Wuju looked up and saw a big gold banner with 9 dragons around. On it were big characters, "Mansion of Eldest Princes." "There we are, Your Highness," said Wuju gently. However, she sounded disgruntled, which she didn't use to. That was just because a girl was sitting in the cart with the Crown Prince. They had wished that the Crown Prince could fall in love with some girl. But this girl, as far as they were concerned, was not as good enough for the Crown Prince. Inside the cart, Nangong Lian heard Wuju, and she realized Wuju was dissatisfied with her. These days, she tried to stay in the room as far as she could, but people in the Crown Prince's mansion still didn't like her. They gave her disgusted looks, as if she had done something evil to the Crown Prince. "Hey, if I really marry you, do you think your maidservants and your chief will kill me?" Nangong Lian joked. She realized the Crown Prince didn't smile much, just like her own brother. So, she couldn't help messing up with the Crown Prince, just as she did to her brother. Unfortunately, the Crown Prince didn't reply much. Shang Wuxin stared at Nangong Lian. She smiled brightly. She was wearing a long purple dress with large sleeves. The jade pendant clanked. She looked graceful with bright eyes. Cute, but still elegant, as if she were a flying phoenix. She would have been a rare beauty, without the tattoo on her face. However, even if she had the tattoo, Shang Wuxin still thought she was a pretty girl. "You can try," Shang Wuxin replied. As expected, Nangong Lian's face flushed. Nangong Lian was a bit older than Shang Wuxin, and she used to be open-minded. But after all, she was a girl who could be shy. Maybe because she thought her red face was quite humiliating. Nangong Lian looked up at the pretty boy and said, "Okay, who cares? But you are not my cup of tea." Shang Wuxin broke Nangong Lian's ambition directly. She dared to say so, just because she knew Nangong Lian didn't have a crush on her. Instead, she might just treat her as a close friend. If someone else said so, Nangong Lin would think he was laughing at her tattoo. But she knew the Crown Prince didn't mean to humiliate her. So she didn't feel sad. She put on the veil and walked behind the Crown Prince. She murmured bitterly, "You really don't know how to have compassion for girls. If you meet my brother someday, I'll have you make friends with him." Shang Wuxin didn't mind. Right at this moment, she didn't expect that she would soon meet the prince who didn't have compassion for girls just like her. Shang Wuxin and Nangong Lian walked into the mansion of Eldest Prince, followed by Wu Wei and Wu Ju in blue. Nearly everyone else had arrived before they did. Even though the Crown Prince was late, no one dared to argue. But to Shang Wuxin's surprise, Lung Yufeng was also here today. Everyone else was shocked too. They thought General Lung worked for the eldest prince. But later when they found that General Lung just sat and said nothing for whatever happened, they realized something wrong. "Here comes the Crown Prince," yelled the butler of the eldest prince. Everyone else stood up and saluted to Shang Wuxin. After that, they were surprised to see a girl in purple stood beside the Crown Prince. They failed to see her face, but from her figure and attitude, they could tell that she must be a girl from a noble family. They couldn't help guessing around. Looking at the girl who stood beside Shang Wuxin, Lung Yufeng clenched his fists. He knew this could come someday, but when he really saw this, all he wanted was just to kill the girl. He forced himself to look at Shang Wuxin. Unexpectedly, he found Shang Wuxin still look coldly at the girl without any warmness. He let out of a sigh of relief, because he knew Shang Wuxin didn't like the girl. But he also wondered if the girl was his concubine or something. After all, Shang Wuxin should have been married. Not everyone else was as chaste as him or Huan Mosh. Thinking that Shang Wuxin also had sexual needs, Leng Yufeng's neck flushed. He didn't dare to imagine how Shang Wuxin would look like when he had sexual passions. Shang Wuxin sat beside Leng Yufeng with Nangong Lian. She noticed Leng Yufeng was absent-minded, but she didn't know he was having sex fantasy on her. "Hi, General Leng," greeted Shang Wuxin. In her eyes, Leng Yufeng was a good young general. She remembered how he cared for her and protected her. Maybe because he just had sexual fantasy about Shang Wuxin, he didn't dare to look at her. But he had no idea that his neck flushed. And so did his face. Seeing this, Shang Wuxin no longer stared at him. Just then, she noticed the girl who gave her a sad look. Shang Wuxin thought about it, and realized the girl was Wanwan at the imperial dinner that day. But she looked as if Shang Wuxin abandoned her. After cups of wine, everyone began to have fun. Shang Wuxin didn't drink though. She had only some tea. Luckily, no one dared to urge her. Just when Shang Wuxin was wondering why everything was so smooth, a man who seemed to be drunk walked to her table. She knew this man always followed the eldest prince. He was kind of Shang Qinzhao's minion. "Congratulations, Your Highness. You have such a beautiful girl. I wonder who she is?" asked the man with the help of the alcohol. Shang Wuxin knew it was also what Shang Qinzhao urged to know, but she didn't even look up, and then she replied coldly, "You don't deserve to know her name." Well, she was telling the truth. After all, Nangong Lian was a princess from Nangong State, and the little sister of the most powerful prince Nangong Qian. This man was merely a son of a minister. How dared he ask the name of a princess? Hearing what she said, the man's face got deathly pale. Wanwan, who had been jealous, glared at Nangong Lian in purple. Then she said something to her maidservant, while no one was noticing. The man looked at Shang Wuxin. But before Shang Wuxin looked up, General Leng suddenly glared at him. Instead of cold eyes, General Leng looked brutal this time. The man was so scared that he took up his cup and went back to his seat timidly. Just then, the maidservant who was filling cups suddenly yanked Nangong Lian's veil. Instantly, everyone saw the scar on her face. As expected, girls screamed with fear while men gave a contemptuous laugh. "Why is she so ugly? How scary she looks. How dare she stay with the crown prince? How shameless she is. If such an ugly girl stayed with me, I couldn't even have any appetite." Could the crown prince like ugly things? Did the crown prince not know what the girl looked like? What the hell? Nangong Lian was used to hearing such stern remarks, but she still felt upset. If she were in her own state, she could have killed them. Unfortunately, she was in the Shang state where she had no authority to kill anyone. When everyone else was staring at Nangong Lian, as if she were a monster, Shang Wuxin yanked back the veil from the maidservant. Looking at Shang Wuxin's white-skinned hand, the maidservant panicked. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.